Even if you farm literally all day every day. Okay, I know you're not gonna tell me.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Wait.
Oh, we on.
Oh, okay, I'm good.
Oh,
So
we
what
live.
do you want to hear? It's like 5 seconds to go. Straight up and moves. Oh no!
We're
I
on
just turned
air.
everything on. Hey everyone, welcome to the TSL Podcast. This is episode 1. So real quick, we're going to start off with an introduction since this is the first episode. So we're going to all go around in a circle, I guess, and introduce ourselves, tell you, qualifications and stuff, what we do, how long we've been playing Hunter, stuff like that. So I'll start off. I'm Moofz. I write a lot of the Wowhead stuff. I write the Marksmanship Wowhead Guide, the BM Mythic Plus guide. I do a lot of High Mythic Plus. I rate in Hard in the Paint, which is World 45th, I think. And yeah, Azor, you want to go next?
Yeah, I'm Azortharion. I write the hunter guides for Icy Veins, Beast Mastery, Marksmanship, and Survival. I've been doing sort of guide writing, theory crafting stuff for about 5 years, and I've been playing Hunter for 9 years. I raid in Solaris, which is like a world 100 and something 3-day guild. Yeah, that's about it.
Prox?
I'm just fucking washed up old man. I don't do anything. No guides or anything like that because fuck that. And I raid in a guild called Honestly, which is usually floating somewhere on the front page. I don't know. I think we're like 17th or something. Who knows? You never even know rankings anyway because there's like 1,000 Chinese guilds hiding ahead of you anyway that don't show in the rankings. So. And did I just see in chat that someone said Dilly looks normal? Already we're starting on a fucking
Dilly
bed
is
of
the most
lies.
normal looking.
Dilly's a good-looking guy.
Actually. Wow.
So he looks like an alien is poorly concealing himself amongst the general populace. And on that basis,
That
you
was
can do
fucked
your
up,
intro.
dude. Where did that come from? That hostility, dude. Like, I understand, like, you're jealous.
Dilly
It's
meets
from the
Prox.
place so
Prox,
well.
Dilly.
Yeah.
All right, Dilly.
Yeah, okay. I'm Dilly. I pretty much do all the PvP guide writing on Wowhead. I've competed as like a 100 PvPer for about 5 years. In tournaments, doing guides, doing, streaming, all that kind of stuff. Been playing Hunter since vanilla, so a lot of experience, I guess. Yeah.
Cool. So now that we introduced ourselves, I just wanted to let everyone know, just sort of set expectations, what you can expect from us. So this is a pretty laid back environment. We're not, can be dressed up super nice. We're gonna be chill. Prox just woke up, for example. We're all gonna be pretty laid back. We're gonna try and give you the most educated and the best information that we have currently available to our knowledge. We'll tell you the latest and greatest theory crafting, all the the new events, new content, stuff like that. We'll cover all of that related to hunters. This is the podcast will be live streamed bi-weekly Fridays. Plus or minus, if a couple of us need to have IRL stuff that we need to do. It might not be every 2 weeks, but we want to try and make it bi-weekly. And yeah, so same time every Friday, 3 p.m. CST, 10 p.m. Central European, and
time.
8 a.m. Australian time, right? Something like
no,
that.
It's
it'll
multiple
be-
time zones
they're,
too,
they're
right?
2 hours behind that. So it's like 6 a.m. or something for them. And then they have multiple time. Well, they kind of have multiple time zones, but really they all live in this tiny corner, and no one gives a shit about the people who live in Perth, so they don't count.
Yeah. Okay, so that's what you can expect from us. So starting off, we're going to sort of do a recap of Hunters and Bfa. So how they started out in Bfa, what Azorite's sort of done for them, how the specs have sort of been the last raid and stuff like that.
Kind of everything is leading up to now as we're about to go into another tier.
Yeah, basically. All right, so first off, just an overview, big scope. Azor, you want to touch on just how have all the hunter specs been, in general?
Well, in Oldia, BM was really strong in the beginning. Marksmanship was sort of middle pack nowhere, and survival is, whenever you speak about survival, it's hard because there's not much data on it. You can rely on the
Either
sims to
of
some
the
extent, but
survival
like
players.
you only really
Yeah.
have like one person really setting the bar for what survival hunters can actually do. But yeah, BM was really strong. Then it got a nerf, and at the time probably justified, but it ended up being really bad by the end of Uldia. And through BOD, they kind of switched places, with MM being sort of the highest damage rating spec, and BM was like one of the worst specs in the game, which is kind of a consequence of that earlier 5% nerf in Uldia. And now we're going into a new tier, and my quick take on it is that BM and MM are pretty close. BM has some advantages in mobility and survivability that will probably make it a bit more desirable and popular among high-end guilds, but there are a few fights where MM has a mechanical advantage. So yeah.
Dilly, you want to touch on how Hunter's been in general for PvP?
Yeah. So I would say like the start of BFA, same thing with PvE. That BM was really, really strong. Like BM was top tier. Marksmanship has pretty much like not been good the entire expansion. I'd say like outside of I mean I guess it has like situational RPG use, I guess, since like 8.1 hit. But I mean the first season was you played BM Hunter or you play Survival Hunter. Both kind of have their pros and cons. After that, there's like PvE nerfs to BM that you saw, and then there were a couple of PvP specific ones. Pretty much almost everyone went to survival for PvP, which is pretty much like the best spec, and that was just mostly because the game pacing was just all about what's fast paced and just trying to be super aggressive. Survival was like really good at that for PvPers, and then leading into last year it was like survival was actually really bad while being probably like one of the better PvP specs, just because the game pace got really slow, and since it's a spec that just relies on having really high momentum, it became really undesirable. And I felt BM Hunter became a little bit better for a good while, and especially on like tournament realms where you don't have any access to Crucible Storm's gear, which was really the only thing giving you any kind of usefulness as Survival Hunter. But I would say, looking into it like right now, it seems like Survival is a little bit better than the other specs based on the benefits it has from the essences. Seem to be really strong for that spec compared to the others.
And if we watch any proper like Blizzard Cup, there's going to be none of them, right? Like, so
yeah, there's been like the Hunter representation is like absolutely like awful in tournaments. I think the only Hunter that gets even in the top 8 is usually Jellybeans, and he doesn't even get to really play his Hunter on his team either. Like he's mostly just the 4th. It's not like a main Hunter team has been able to do well. So they've been in kind of weak shape outside of ladder.
All right, so let's talk about this most recent tier, Crucible Storms. Obviously, it was sort of like an off tier, it was a tier for a lot of guilds. No one, guilds didn't really super try hard since it was just like a 2-boss tier. Prox, what were your thoughts on COS in general and how hunters were? And I see you have some opinions over there.
So we were dog shit on the first boss, just because neither of us do 2-target particularly well. I say neither of us because I'm just like, for PvE, brutally honest, I'm just generally going to exclude survival a whole fucking lot. I'm sorry about that, but I'm not actually sorry about that. So like neither of us do 2-target cleave particularly well. So you kind of say, right, well, what I'll do is I'll fuck off with the whole B ingredient stacking this buff, and I'll just eat all this purple shit on the ground and free other people up to do their thing. And then we were actually pretty damn good on the last boss. The only thing we suffered from is not having Sliver, because some fucking moron in Blizzard thought that was a good design for a trinket. So instead of playing fight like everyone else, you just sat there staring at this 5-yard radar. So every time someone went, oh, my Sliver stacks, so you like could step out instead of their trinket, their responsibility. But you actually, like, your damage profile was really good for what that fight required. And you get to come up with a nice, cool, fun bugged log for J-Easy to report 5 times a day. So that was good as well. No, so we looked quite good in that, to be honest. And then the other thing was, like, you would not see a lot of hunter representation because a lot of those top guilds in the pre-nerf state had a really shit strat and thought that stacking that warlocks out the ass was a good thing. So they like fucked themselves over and tacked a bunch of time on, and you can see how much it tilted them and that sort of thing. But as a result, a lot of people look at those guilds and copy them, even when you sort of need some of the other guilds to come in behind and come up with strats that aren't retarded. And yeah, you didn't see hunters really being represented until I think Club Camel did theirs with 2.
Yeah.
Exhaustus had a couple early on, but that was just to consistently push phase 1 to get them into phase 2, and they were going for like 900 bazillion.
Yeah, so I actually did a lot of talking to Coalpatch and Brew, the Club Camel Hunters, if you don't know who they are. And one of the things that made Hunter viable, aside from the trinket, because they actually did not wear the trinket, which wasn't too bad because you can sort of stand in melee as a beam hunter or go stand off to by yourself as long as you're not putting
there's heaps of room
puddles.
to stand out.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world. You have to sort of make it your own and sort of like make your own little positioning by yourself. But one of the things, so they're alliance hunters, and so they basically can avoid every beam in the last phase between Turtle, and they were both void elves, and so you can just hop over the beam with fuck, I don't know alliance racials. What's the
just the void port.
Void port. The other thing you could do with that is you can just walk through one beam, wait, and walk through the other forehead because it's not hard, and it's like the only fucking damage, and you have so much self healing as BM. It's not a thing. Like too many people focus on that fucking beam damage thinking it was hard. In pre-nerf, it was fucking easy. Like, what are your healers doing that was a concern for you? There's nothing else for them to do in that fucking fight.
I mean, I think the biggest issue healing wise was one, they had to move to get their color right, and a lot of healers don't know how or can't move and cast, and then 2, that coupled with the mind control where you can't receive heals for those 5 seconds or whatever that you're mind controlled, and I think just it was a mix of healers not topping everyone up before that, or players not using their defensives during that, knowing that they won't receive heals, or whatever.
But yeah, in terms of how we showed overall for that boss, like we looked pretty good, but a lot of that is because we don't needlessly pad on those ads as they're coming through, unless you're someone who goes out of your way to pad on ads.
If you're looking at boss damage,
but relevant whether it's boss damage or switching to the ads when it's your time to burn them kind of thing, your like effective useful damage in that fight is really, really fucking good. You're a really good addition to the raid for that. You just have to get people over the fucking sliver stack Papega shit.
Yeah, I couldn't convince my guild. They forced me to an Ellie Shaman. Sad face.
I mean, Ellie Shaman is a really fucking giga on it, but it's also, for whatever reason, like it's quite a straightforward spec to play, but some people can be really retarded on it.
I love the meatballs. So we've sort of touched on it already. What's sort of the different scaling and how hunters are looking coming into 8.2? So I know like Prox is reading the novel that Jay-Z just wrote. So I know BM hunters are scaling amazingly well with crit, for example. Azor, you want to touch on sort of the different scalings of some of the different classes and
well, I mostly know things about hunters. So, the main difference between BM and MM in this regard is that BM is much more secondary. And in return, it has worse main stat scale. But Blizzard has made it so that when you gain item level, you gain way more main stat compared to second. So naturally, just from the eye level alone, looking aside from essences and other mechanics, MM generally gains more going into a new tier with more item level. But the cool thing about BM here is that it'll scale better with some of the essences simply because a lot of them take up a global or they have some kind of opportunity cost. And BM is better at soaking up opportunity cost from essence usage because it has a bit of downtime in it inherently. While MM is like, full on pretty much almost no matter what, you are sacrificing either focus or damage by casting an essence mid-rotation. It's still worth it, but you lose more than BM does.
One thing on that front that I foresee potentially becoming a problem for BM is the competing secondaries that you're wanting to stack, where like everyone's sort of on the triple Dodd train at the moment, which means that you just go all in on crit. But Blizzard's new kind of way to make their shit stat desirable is to just make all of these fucking damage procs all over the show that's scale off verse and pretty much nothing else. So now you have these competing things for your DPS where a large part of it is saying stack verse, a large part is saying stack crit, and because you're so dependent on either of those, you're always like robbing from Peter to pay Paul, whereas a lot of other classes will just kind of get double up the stat they were wanting to get a lot of value out of anyway, is now benefiting from this new design philosophy. So that could be a thing. I may be overstating it, but that's kind of a fear for me in terms of that will limit BM's potential to scale off secondaries.
I mean, if you look at both marksman and survival, they both love versatility. I believe survival likes versatility. I could be wrong, but so them getting more verse isn't really an issue. I'm pretty sure Ghost has been linking sims all week with multiple hunters have versatility as their highest stat now as opposed to mastery, or marksman hunters rather. And so a lot of classes, Ellie Shaman loves versatility. Different classes like that. This obviously isn't a huge issue, but for BM, like Prox said, where we want a lot of crit, we might end up stacking a lot more versatility. And honestly, I think it's not going to be a huge issue because I think we're getting to the point with BM where there's not a crit cap per se, but it does start to lose value eventually.
I was already hitting 100% at times, so like just have everything procced at once. So there was an element of that.
But so what about 8.2 in general? Just sort of free talk. How are you liking 8.2, the new zones? How are you liking that grind, the AP grind, Prox? You're a diehard 65 already.
It's more or less 57. Jesus, that is a loud wiggle. You can probably hear that. You can tell I'm doing shit on Mechadong right now. I really, really like the new zones, to be honest, but I am a big fan of the single fucking player go grind this shit out. You see someone racing to help get that last hit on your fucking ad, so you like quickly like kill it so that they don't get it. They have to wait around. All of that bullshit. No, I'm really enjoying it. The only thing is, like, I don't enjoy it. It might seem like I do. I don't enjoy AP at all. Like, the system is just so fucking flawed, and it's just driving some people to some absolute acts of degeneracy. So
Prox
that aside.
Prox is that guy to pop all his cooldowns on a rare and kill it as fast as possible instead of waiting for people to get there.
Yeah, like you look at these fucking turbo cucks who are like, "Oh, genocide is up."
Well,
you got war mode on.
If you're
just fucking blast it. Go.
I mean, yeah, war mode on though,
person.
isn't it? Like, kind of like, it's kind of logical to do that, right? In case someone tries to kill you. I mean, that's usually what I do because I'm thinking someone's gonna.
Yeah, but it's also like
let's pretend that's my motivation. No, it's more like, man, if I'm gonna do all this shit to solo it, like I'm not helping you. I'm not sharing you. What's in it for me? What's in it for me?
Exactly. It's about
no, but like Mechagon, I really like, to be honest. Like, it started off, we're like, oh, there's not really much to do here, and the more time you spend there, you're like, oh fuck, there's too much to do here. Or I need to get out and do like some other fucking stuff. And I really like on PTR. I guess I should add, I spent enough time on PTR that I accidentally got flying. So I played it a bit. And I really, really like Najtar as a zone, but man, that zone comes to life with flying.
Okay.
Like, it's
I honestly, so I really liked Mechagon, and I hated Najtar. I really like the design. It looked like such a cool looking zone, and I think they put a lot of effort into designing it. I hated it because of all the different levels, and there's both zones just have so much like shit on the ground that you can't just like walk in a straight line without running into like a little ledge or something. But
Oh yeah, like here's this tree branch which your
yeah.
character can possibly step over.
I think both zones are designed amazingly, and they're just so much better with flying. Like you see the zone, you see the giant waterfall in Nazjatar and everything. And I think it looks super cool. But yeah.
What do you guys think about like the vertical design stuff they've made with many zones lately, especially Nazjatar, but also there was that one zone in, I think, the Enteran Wastes in Enterus.
I kind of like those, but the only thing that makes those annoying is like they're obviously designed with like flying in mind, and then when you have it, it just like feels like kind of annoying. Which also, honestly, I get that same feeling for like a lot of the fucking like leveling zones, and then you think of how long we're actually in these zones without flying, and then it's like they're clearly designed with flying in mind, because like they've mentioned that before, right? That they design zones, if there's gonna be flying, they design it with that in mind, that you're gonna have flying. But if you wait that long, then they actually just become like kind of frustrating to deal with. In comparison, if they're designed with like you just like walking around, like I remember in Cataclysm, like you still had flying in the open world, but then you had zones like the Firelands zone. Like that one wasn't designed for flying, but like it's nice and level. There's still stuff to do. I feel like that's like
it made me think of the Timeless Isle, which had a very simple layout and was mostly flat, and I never really minded the lack of flying on that. And maybe I wouldn't mind Nazjatar without flying as much. But there's some rares like it can take 5 minutes to reach rares without flying. Just figuring it out.
The thing that annoys me is like you'll have a quest or a rare like in a cave underwater, and you don't know if it's underwater, on the surface, on the platform above, and you have to like check all of them, and it can be either thing, and it's just with flying, obviously you just boom boom boom, go wherever you want. And sorry, my cat's.
Maybe they'll make Mechagon a bit of a Timeless Isle thing long term. I don't know.
I find, honestly, one thing I find it's not as annoying for me on Hunter, like dealing with the elevation, because I guess it's like if I'm like, okay, I guess I have to like jump off some fucking cliff. You can just disengage before dying.
Disengage?
Others have it worse.
Yeah, like when I play my DK and I go in there, I was like, oh my god, this is miserable. So I just decided like I'm not even gonna deal with any of my ults until I get my flying, and it's like I actually have so many classes that I want to play.
And high explosive trap.
Yeah, but that ability is so bad. It's I swear it bugs so much. Oh my. I actually hate it compared to like how it used to work in like MoP and wildlife. It just feels so unreliable because it has the arm time on it, and then it has the travel time, and then if you move too fast over it, it'll just trigger the trap, but then it won't actually knock anyone. So it's like, if a seaman hunter or demon hunter fucking.
Did you say seaman hunter?
Sorry,
seaman hunter.
He fucking knows what's up.
Us PvE plebs, we rarely doing clutch traps. We're just putting them down and waiting for someone to come by.
Well, but that's exactly what happens. They just dash over it and they just fuck your day up, and then you're just like, wow, I just wasted this.
Yeah.
All right, so we sort of already touched on it, but how has everyone's farming experience been? The rep at everyone has flying. Dilly, you said you don't, right?
No. I'm like 200 reps short. I should have grinded rares.
So what's all the farming tactics that y'all used? So obviously world
do every
questing.
world quest. Yeah, I just literally just do everything that I see every quest, and then I just do that, and I don't go out of my way.
Any
I got
pet battlers? I know.
I did the
Prox is a
fucking
pet battler.
fish. I did the fucking fish on Mechagon like one day, and I was like, miss me with that shit. Holy fuck.
I attempted it. I got one fish, the third catch, and then I tried to get the second fish, and it was like 50 later, and I was like, no, fuck this. I'm not doing this daily for 250.
Now
there's a pretty the efficiency of farming a lot of things tapers off really quickly. Depending on how
it's all about one thing. Yeah, now it's all about, bro, can I get any of them pearls? Gotta give me the pearls. Give me the pearls.
And even pearls you can supposedly endlessly farm.
Yeah.
on the Elgans, the last and
Yeah.
wayward Elgans.
Elegance.
But like the drop rate, I don't know if they dropped it yesterday but or maybe I'm just being unlucky. They still dropped Benthic. I saw that today, but I
Yeah.
haven't seen any pearls in a long
It's
time.
like it's 25% chance to get something from them. I did a
Really?
round. Yeah, I did a round this morning. I got like 6 or 7 pearls from them.
Without
Oh.
any shenanigans, without any like fucking exploits or whatever, you comfortably are getting 100 pills a day. So like that's more than enough. There's 12 days to mythic, 11 days to mythic now. I don't know. I can't remember when I last slept, but yeah, you're gonna like there's like 1,000 pills waiting there for you, and that's more than enough to do most of what you need. So
So
Where does
okay,
that
let-
100
let's-
pearls a
let's-
day come from? Because I'm not sure I'm getting that much a
Okay,
day.
so we
when I'm
have-
doing.
questing and world quests usually net you 20 to 25 depending.
Yeah.
You have all the rares, which net you 10 to 20 depending on which ones you do. The reef
you also
walkers.
get the I don't know about you, like OCE is fucked in terms of like everyone is on the one server on the one faction, like everyone's kind of like moved there, and so there's no horde, so we don't get the whole battle for Nejitar shit anymore. We just get the kill the 5 commanders. So every time that spawns, you usually can go get like 3 of them, so that's like 6 pearls every time. You can do that like 4. I don't know, if you're not hanging out there all the time, you'll still get it like 4 times in the day. So
Yeah. The
so
PvP
that's a
dailies-
quarter of it just there from that event. Like
The
forget
PvP
everything
events,
else,
yeah.
a quarter of 100 is there.
But that
Yeah,
still
so
leaves
I
40.
personally cannot.
-ish.
The max I've ever been able to kill are 2 of those Nagas, just because people kill
Yeah.
them so quickly. But that's still 5 or 6 pearls.
So yeah, the other thing, as soon as that comes up and you're tagging, you have to start realm hopping. You don't sit on that one realm because they all are happening around the same time but
that's
offset. So you get it, you hop, you get it, you hop, you get it, you hop. You can even get like 6, 7, 8, 9 kind of thing out of it if you're lucky. It just depends on.
So you
how
still
you've got
get
to go.
credit even if you hop off the realm where you tagged it.
No,
correct?
so like you just fucking burn it down and you hop off to another one.
Oh, okay.
Because some of them start offset. So like one of them the realms you appear on might be fucking 10 minutes behind or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Okay, that's
it's not
actually-
fun.
didn't
I
know
don't
that.
recommend doing it, but it seems to work.
If you're pearl
done
grinding,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just, it feels autistic. It's not a good way to play. So
Yeah, yeah.
No.
And then obviously the Algans, if y'all don't know, they are little. Here, let me just show y'all. Okay, so they are little Algans.
all the
one is
seaweed
it?
boys.
Lost Algan, these guys, right? Yeah, so they're little floating elementals that just walk over. So hunters can actually use track elementals. So I just leave that on, and you can. It also gets all the reef walkers, so you sort of have to just like hover over it and just go to the Algans. But these guys, they're super easy to kill. They're not rare mobs or anything. They're not elites. You just go and kill them, and they just have a chance to drop both Benthic and a couple pearls. Sometimes they give you shit, but it's still better just to kill them anytime you see them.
Yeah. I put a paste bin of a macro in the chat just now, which is basically a macro you can spam while flying around in Nejitar doing your other stuff, and it'll target and mark Algans nearby.
That's really nice.
And it'll prioritize, living ones and all that stuff. And it'll also make a sound, I believe. I don't play with sound on, so I don't know for
Wait,
sure, but there's a
those
play
guys get
sound
rep?
thing in there. They do not give rep, it's
No,
just for the pearls, really. They have a small chance to give pearls, and they can also give Benthic tokens,
Yeah. So
which is, the equivalent of 5 pearls.
So some more of the casual stuff of 8.2. Prox, I know you're a huge RPer. How many new pets have you gotten? Did you get Horizon or Undasta yet?
Nah, my experience with pets in this actually no, it's just been the fucking battle pets, the Pokemon shit. Like just using the guides from there, finding the pets that like Giga pushed, and then jacking them up on the AH. Like low key, you straight up boost that to level 25, make it blue, and tack 50k onto your price. Like I've I think I made like 1 million gold on those fucking pets since it
Dang.
came out. Like it's real. There's some gold there to be had. Otherwise, no, like pets really just serve as a way to make fun of someone in your raid. If a pet's not really annoying to the melee, you kind of don't want to use it. Like, that's the most important feature for a pet in this game. But yeah, I don't really care about the fucking dumb dinosaurs, to be honest.
All right, so being totally honest, I had never pet battled in my life. I think I attempted once back in WoD and I lost, and I was like, "Fuck this shit." And then,
Stupid.
and then
Stupid
2
game.
days ago, I was 300 reps short of flying, and I was like, "Fuck, I'm getting it today." And I did not want to do 50 world quests or whatever it was, and so I talked to my friend on stream, and he let me borrow his pets, and he had to teach me how to pet battle. So he was telling me which to use first, which
See my
attack to use
Pokemon
second,
trainer.
and
I can just imagine how fucking painful you would have been through that. That guy must have aged like 1,000 years. Jesus.
it was interesting, and I don't think I'll do pet battle for a while after that, but it was good. It
I
got me
want
flying.
real-time pet battles.
Yeah, dude. If I
Instead
want
of
to pet battle, I'll
turn-based.
go play Pokemon.
Same. But wait, real-time Pokemon does sound kind of sick.
The Pokemon Go.
Nah, that's not the same, man. Bro, I'm talking about having some animals fight to the death.
Whoa.
Virtual animals, of course,
Okay,
that won't be
virtual,
harmed in the
virtual.
making.
There we go.
Dilly
Let's
likes
specify,
gone
let's
all in on
specify.
cockfighting.
Hell no.
He's Wild's own Michael Vick.
If
Dude,
anyone wants to gamble, talk to Dilly about cockfighting.
dude.
Jesus Christ. So in case anyone
Maybe the
was
first one I talked to
worried,
you
like
about that moves, but maybe not about chickens.
between us, we've made sure this channel will never be monetized on YouTube.
Okay.
We've been
How was
demonetized
everyone's...
Sorry.
All right,
Sorry.
so we know one of the essences, which we'll talk about here in a second, but one of the essences of Blood of the Enemy required a shitload of battleground grinding. How's everyone's grinding experience? Did you do it? Did you no life it for 10 hours a day? Azor? Prox?
I can't bring myself to do it personally. I'll
Same.
maybe I'll have to one day if they nerf the World Vein resonance, or I don't know. It just turns out it's better than we thought. I hope that day doesn't come, because the best time to do it was last week.
Yeah, with the bonus.
Yeah, but I'm barely like maybe a little bit towards rank 2.
Yeah. Prox? I know you have rank 3 already.
Nah, I got rank 2, but it's fucking so shit. It'd be fine if other people didn't exist in this world, which is kind of my ideal planet, but unfortunately they do, and they're all retarded. So yeah, I don't know. I've got like 17k or some 16k, so I'll leave it. Like as I said, it's probably a while before we're using like maybe in that 3rd essence slot. I think I've convinced my guild to do the whole world vein shit in your 2nd thing. We'll see. There are a few who are going, I'm not doing that, but enough. I think we have it covered that it'll be a goer.
I mean, for hunters, Blood of the Enemy, I don't think we used it as our major really, except maybe in Mythic Plus, but I mean,
we pseudo could
there's the
now.
irons.
Yeah, we pseudo could now, but as soon as all this shit unlocks next week, miss me with that shit. Like,
yeah, it's
just-
really good for the miner for BM, for example, and I think it's decent for marksman and survival as a miner.
I think it's stronger as a miner for MM than it is for BM.
Is it because of rapid fire?
Yeah, but it's more that the one that's potentially better for BM is like Conflict and Strife, which is even more competitive PvP, I believe. So yeah.
I mean,
I think it's a
at
blessing
least-
that World Vein might be a very common raid
Right.
pick.
At least with conflict and strife, you can just kind of whine to one of the PvPers and you go like, carry me, give me some ranking. Whereas,
Dilly, carry me.
Or
fucking
try
the
Galloway's
experience,
PvP boosting
Nah,
services.
when you queue into a fucking Ashran, you see Ashran load up and you just fucking die inside. Oh my god.
Asher,
How
you don't
is it?
like
Like, you
spending
managed
2
to jump
hours in a battleground?
No, that's
Like,
why you just have to you literally have to queue for like AV specifically. But there's no way there's no way I'm grinding Battlefield Brawler. Like I just don't see it. Like it doesn't seem like it's that good. So I'm just gonna have it. And honestly, if it's something decent, like I'll just play the turnaround. That's it. I refuse to grind that. It's like way too much mind numbing just sitting in a BG because you only get it from random battlegrounds. It's not even like you could do rated battlegrounds, which I feel would be actually probably more efficient for honor. It's
we
not
had
even like
some
honor from
people-
other sources.
We had one dude get it on like the fucking second day or some shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
missing.
it's definitely totally dual. It's so doable to do, but it's like, do you want to do that? You know, like I think it's more rough for healers. I think that actually PvP. I think because I think the thing that they get from it, it's like artifice of time. I don't know. It basically does like the void stone effect that was from Crucible of Storms.
Yeah.
Like on an ally. So I mean that ends up being good for healers. So healers are doing that, but like as a DPS, I don't see myself putting myself out there just to grind that.
What do you mean, Dill? You don't want rank 4, 100,000 honor?
Yeah, gotta get that.
No.
Is it the PvP one? Just like a fucking flag? It's not even an effect. You just get like a slightly spastic flag. Like, oh my god.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't care enough.
Imagine being the person at Blizzard. Like, that's your job. And that's like, you come up with it and you like pat yourself on the back. Job fucking well done.
Well, have you taken a look?
And
Have
a
you taken
flag.
a look at like the tabards for like from like arena, like the gladiator tabards that they have now, and then you look at the ones from like Wrath or like Kata or not Kata, Wrath or Mop, and then you're like, wow, this definitely was not the same person. Like,
Yeah.
I swear like I can make a guild tabard that looks better than some of the ones like.
The custom guild tabards.
Yeah. I mean, like, I like honestly, I mean, I see that they're trying to go with some kind of theme with it, but like, they're just so bland. Like, it looks like something that like I would wear around my neck, like while I was like eating a meal. You know, like I don't know. I don't know the word, like not like a napkin, but like, you know what I'm saying?
You look like
Yeah.
you wear a bib when you eat.
Like a bib. There you go, bib. It's a word. They look like bibs. They look like bibs over tabards. Okay.
That's excellent. Okay, so since we're talking about Blood of the Enemy, let's dive into essences. So
yeah,
this
let's go
is
with just in general.
Yeah.
So this is just the Wowhead essence guide. So let's just sort of go over the 10 different essences. So if you don't know what an essence is, obviously, essence is sort of like the new Azurite, sort of the new thing they gave us to increase our power, something a little more to customize or whatever. Customize. There's probably going to be like 2 that we.
It's a shit bandage. They came up with a shit bandage to add some variety into a game that was on the verge of teetering off the cliff.
All right.
I think rather than go through all 10, like anytime we come across one that we universally agree is shit, we'll just say it's shit and move on. And then that way we can talk about the few that are relevant.
Can we use the word bad?
Bad.
If you want. Yeah. You can use any word if you like.
You know, for the children in classrooms around the world watching.
No, that's a shit on the radio now. That's not even a class. Like you're good. That's a juicy word. You're fine.
Okay, so let's go over their Crucible Aflame. So this is the one that everyone got right off the bat from questing. You need 54 and 60 neck respectively to unlock rank 2 and rank 3. So this is a pretty solid essence for every spec. It's just pretty much straight damage, scales off verse. I mean, it's a really good single target. Probably use it for raid, maybe PvP. I don't know, what are y'all's thoughts?
You're definitely banging it now before the next lot of stuff comes out, and it works particularly well with BM because you have those GCDs to spare. Like, it's no skin off your nose. Some classes are like, I hate pressing this button. I don't have a time that's right. That's not us. We definitely have the time to press it and does some decent damage. So
yeah, that's actually exactly what I've been thinking. For like, we're doing BM PvP, I'd say that's definitely the best one to have. Also, just because BM doesn't really have like much burst in PvP, it's like more like sustain. So having that, like the rank 3 of that is like nice because you have 2 charges and then it's like 70% or 75% of the damage is a dot.
yeah, it gets to be very, very nice with the 2 charges.
Because I mean, the other essence is like if your Lucid Dreams is BM, it's like okay, that lines up with the aspect of the wild where you already have enough focus and like what are you trying to prove there? Having like that extra focus, you know, doesn't really do anything for you.
Yeah.
In PvP, can you precast it and then have 2 stacks for?
You can
your
cast it in the
opening?
gates, but
Does it reset to 0 when?
With the door
yeah,
open.
arena
it
starts?
resets to 0. But if you're like,
Okay.
I mean, if you wanted and you were like playing camo, like if you're playing survival, you could like buff it and then camo, you know, like right
Okay.
out the gates. Like rogues do that too. Sometimes I'll see rogues, they come out of stealth for like 1 second, like they'll cast it and then re-stealth.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with like in raid, like so it stacks up to 3 stacks, and obviously if you try pre-stacking it, it automatically gets reset to 1 when you enter into raid combat, or Mythic Plus, I'm pretty sure is the same way. Which I don't know, good and bad, I guess. It prevents the annoying 30-second pre-pull stacking up to 3 stacks and crap like that.
I think it balances out the essence as well. Like I think they don't want you to have that initial burst of damage like when the fight starts. You know, they don't want that to be like that huge chunk that comes out of nowhere.
Okay, so next one, World Vein Resonance. So there's a lot of sneaky stuff that people are starting to notice with this. So
Not
obviously,
really. Basically, it's us unless a bunch of other people in the raid have it, and then
Right.
it's better than everything in that secondary slot.
so this
and
is
the only time you ever take
That's for the
Mate.
minor slot, by the way.
a pseudo
Yeah.
sliver 2.0 with in terms of the minor. So I think the major sort of sucks. I don't think any class really loves the major, but the
No,
minor.
the role of the major. Jesus Christ, that we call it. The role of the major is somebody to give your raid 4 stacks on the pull, and if your whole raid needs to relocate to another spot, they hit that so that you all get stacks again. Like, that's literally the only purpose for that in the group, and that's an important role. But that means there's probably going to be either a healer or whoever is the most retarded person in your raid that doesn't get a say and just gets assigned those kind of roles instead.
Wouldn't BM end up being like a good bitch for that just because, you know, the empty gold?
No, and you shut your hooker mouth.
I mean, I'm
Don't
only
you
thinking of like
say
in an
that, Dilly.
unbiased way.
No, not really. Like,
it would probably be a
there's
healer.
nothing over it.
Azor's face is actually the best. Like his eyes just got wide. He didn't say anything. He just sat there.
Realistically, you would pick, and I don't know who the answer for this is. If you were going to do it for DPS, you'd work out who gets the least from their main, and then that would go in. I think Windwalkers, not that you see many of them, I think they unironically look at it seriously. I don't think they get much out of the others. I could be totally wrong. I'm just going off like what a couple of people have said. So that could be a potential. But otherwise, you're really looking for who gets the least out of a different main. Okay, so that's the lowest sacrifice for the guild DPS for the biggest overall net increase. Because all you're trying to do at the end of the day, individual DPS doesn't matter. Yeah, it's literally just what is the net DPS. I mean, we do all right prog-wise, and our strat for every boss is just brute force, do giga DPS, who needs a strat forehead. And that's literally how we approach everything. It is just what is the most net DPS? Let's do that. And that's a pretty easy equation to do. So yeah, if it winds up being that hunters get less out of their primary essence than anyone else, then you'll do it in a heartbeat and you won't think twice about it. That's fine. That's your role. Unless you're Azor going for ranks and then losing to a Korean last minute anyway.
Yikes.
Damn. Why are you just coming at
I can't
everyone's
even
low
meme him for it though, because
ball.
I did the same. I did the same thing.
Well,
Like,
I
we both
missed
were
several
just
weeks of raiding towards the end of the tier, so I'm not gonna be too upset.
Pre-canned excuses.
To come
Well,
back
you
to
don't
the
know.
world
He
vein
missed
thing.
those to go to Korea to try steal a rank there. We know.
All right, so let's move on. Ripple in space, pretty shit. I don't know.
I think that's one we can skip. Yeah,
Yeah.
like that's just.
I mean, this is
don't,
pretty
Maybe-
bad
maybe-
for hunters.
Maybe okay in PvP. I don't know. I don't want to ever use it, but
The only time I feel like you would use this is for the utility of teleporting to a location.
port,
Like
yeah.
maybe on like Unat where you want to teleport to a beam, but then you lose so much damage from taking it. It's like,
Yeah.
is it worth? So it's pretty bad in general. All right, so let's move
Seems like
on.
a gimmick. I don't know if it's actually good for anyone, hunters or otherwise.
I don't think
Yeah,
so.
no, I only would say the same thing like a situational like PvP
Yeah.
where you're like, oh, I'm just gonna
Yeah.
dip
Okay.
out.
And the other
Yeah,
thing
because I
is,
was thinking, if it's gonna be good anyway, it's PvP, but no,
Yeah.
apparently not.
I thought of maybe the miner for PvP because you get the agility when you like move a certain amount of time.
well,
like
but
use
the,
just
the thing
survival.
with the moving that I just found out a couple days ago is that you can't move back and forth. You have to move from one place to another in a straight line, like the 25 yards.
Well,
I
Well,
think
what
it
I- what I was
creates
thinking
invisible
is, like-
tethers, and you have to break the tether effectively.
Yeah.
Well, what I was thinking is like as survival, like you get a little harpoon to trap someone, right? So I was thinking, okay, well you do that, and then now you trap them, and now you have agility. That was the only thing I could think of. And then since it's like every 25 seconds, I'm like, oh, it's the same time as your trap. So like maybe that's okay as a miner, but I feel like it also probably is like not as reliable too.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So moving on. Vision of Perfection. So obviously we don't have this one yet. We get this one next week when we're able to do the dungeon Mechagon. How
This is
just
the cooldown one, right? Like the
the chance to
Yeah.
proc a cooldown and then the reduction of the base cooldown.
Did-
So Azor, what are your thoughts on this? Just obviously we don't have it yet, so we haven't been able to play around with
Yeah.
it aside from PTR.
Well, this is the one everyone thought was gonna be game changing for almost every spec when we first. I think it was one of the earliest essences we. As it turns out, it's really good for some specs and not so good for others. BM is not very cooldown reliant unless you count Bestial Wrath, but its main cooldown aspect of the wild is not that strong. For MM, the cooldown is much stronger. Like if you just look at a damage graph for MM, it's every 1 minute or so a huge peak from True Shot. So for MM, it's a very powerful one. And for I can't remember. It's up
The
there for survival
survival.
as well. But yeah, the survival. The
I can
first
understand
spec.
for
I
Why
can't
is
remember the
everyone
third
sh-
spec. What
Why
is
is
it?
everyone shit on this, man? I actually really
Welcome
like
to
playing
the world of PV, man.
Yeah, dude, it's so fun to play though.
Yeah, it's alright, but not standout for survival. Just talking about the major. The minor is powerful for MM as well, but not like level of World Vein with some allies and all that stuff. I'd say it's out of the three specs, it's stronger for MM than any of the others. Just to recap, like what it actually does is, well, you can read it on the screen, but the major is that sometimes you'll basically get your main cooldown for a few seconds. And the minor is that it reduces the cooldown of your main cooldown. And for BM, when it procs Aspect of the Wild and you have the Primal Instincts trait, you will also get that. I'm not actually, I'm pretty sure the same goes for Unerring Vision for Marksmanship, which is the trait that gives you stacking crit during True Shot. And for Survival, it also works pretty well because of, at least with the Birds of Prey build, which this might be news to you guys who never deal with survival, but there's this trait that increases your agility when when your main cooldown is activated, Coordinated Assault.
Mongoose Spider Raptor, right?
Yeah. And with Birds of Prey, you can also extend that cooldown, so you can get really major uptime on it. And the essence basically allows you to keep that train going for longer. So it's depends on the spec very much. So it's one of the more interesting essences, though.
Yeah. So I know hunters, it's okay for hunters, but there's a lot of classes like Demon Hunter, Unholy Decay that love this essence. It's really those classes with like long cooldown, like Demon Hunter, 4-minute meta, right? And their cooldown is amazing, and then they just sort of peter off after their cooldown. Well, this obviously has a what's the reduction? I think it's 25% or 15%.
It's 35% at the max rank,
Yeah.
and I think it's a 5% heal on it after, and then
Imagine being at the fucking Blizzard dev round table. You're like, all right, you each went away and created an essence. Bob, You've created visions of perfection. That's amazing. You, Ripple in Time boy, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, oh my god.
I mean,
I created an ability that does damage every 30 seconds.
Real time, it could be cool. Like, I mean, in theory, it's like a
Oh,
cool.
you
Like,
Blizzard shill! Shut
no,
up.
whoa. That's not. That's not
No,
even.
no, no,
I'm just saying that
Oh,
it could be
company
cool. I mean, it's
line.
obviously not, but I mean,
not like this.
it could be something like Void Elf. You know, one fucking sick fuck.
Yeah,
decides,
Void Elf
like,
is dog shit as well. I mean,
yeah, but I mean,
so good to switch back off
honestly,
that.
if I wanted it for utility, I would have it more like where you could like reactivate it again for like another press instead of like.
Yeah, well, someone just said in chat, Ripple used to be Engine. Engine was good. Engine was interesting. I fucking give it that back. Whose decision was it to scrap Engine and then man, that is the guy who was like, okay, we're gonna make a Diablo game and it's gonna be on phones. This is gonna be great. Like that same guy got to make it like in essence.
Well, we might see it in a few expansions. They've kind of brought reorigination. What's it called? The old one from Rune of Reorigination from in the form of the punch card.
Yeah, but
and
then
everyone
they put
loved that. At least the classes
punch
that
card
could benefit from.
instead.
Oh yeah,
So
not nearly as interesting that one, but it's pretty overpowered. For those unaware, there's when you reach Revered with the Rustbolt Resistance, which is the Mechadon reputation.
Yep, I started the train.
You can basically craft this punch card for almost nothing. That I think you just buy it actually for either gold or. Yeah, okay. Well, you can grab this punch card.
2,000 gold or something.
Yeah, okay, easy peasy then. Basically, a 2-minute CD. It's this ability, does like 150k damage. Do some math, 1.2k DPS. And it's so it has a 1.5 second cast time, and then it starts the channel. You can cast during the channel, and the ability itself, the cast, is not on the GCD. So the optimal usage is like you press a button, start a GCD, then you immediately hit your trinket so that it effectively doesn't have any opportunity cost. And then you get this time, 2.5 seconds of it doing damage where it's channeling, and you can cast anything else except for a different channel. You have to cast something instant or regular casts, non-channels. And that way you basically get 1.2k DPS with no opportunity cost.
So are there more punch cards? I think there's more from Mechagon, right? But there aren't any from the raid or anything like that.
I think it starts and stops in a Mechadon, the whole punch card.
Dilly was.
Sorry.
Look what I started.
Okay, so Vision of Perfection, we sort of talked about that. Let's go over to Memory of Lucid Dreams. So this one, if you don't know, the active, you get 100% of your resource generation for a short period, 15 seconds, I think, at rank 3. And then the minor is basically all of the spells you use have a chance to refund part of your energy, right? So for most classes, a lot of classes, this is a very good essence. For hunters, it's pretty dog shit. I think it's good for survival.
Yeah, it's quite binary. Like either you have resource problems or get a lot out of your resource, and it's good, or you don't, and it's bad. And there's I haven't seen much middle ground. Yeah. So for us, it's like, oh yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a way you can think about it is imagine if whatever spec you're playing had infinite resources. What could you do that you couldn't do before? So if you had infinite focus, the only thing you could do is just cast a bunch more arcane shots instead of steady shots. And they don't do a lot of damage unless they're precise shots. All your damage comes from aim shot, rapid fire, both of which have a cooldown. So it's cooldown limited, not resource limited. Therefore, it's bad. BM, if you had infinite focus, you would still only really be getting 2 Cobras per kill command. So your kill command count wouldn't really go up that much, and that's like the bulk of the damage. The pet doesn't really benefit because its basic attacks, the claw, bite, and smack, it's basically always getting benefit from the wild hunt mechanic, which not many people know, but when your pet uses its basic attack at above 50 focus, it does double damage. Basically a way to make up for the fact that, if you have overflow on the pet, you'll still benefit from the focus in some way. Survival, actually, depending on the spec you're playing, the build you're playing for survival, it can benefit a lot or not that much. I mentioned it earlier, but there's this Birds of Prey cooldown-based build. Every time you Mongoose Bite, you're like your main focus spender. You extend your
Mongoose.
cooldown. Well, how's it pronounced? Okay,
No,
since you take issue with it.
I liked it. No, it was good. It just
Okay,
sounded really
Mongoose.
nice.
Mongoose, the Mongoose Bite. So every time you Mongoose Bite, you get to extend your main cooldown, and you also get agility if you have the Blur of Talents trait. So this lets you extend that for longer, and yeah, happy days. Good for some
Yeah.
specs, bad for others. Just imagine what your spec could do with infinite resources. Then you can sort of intuit how good a memory of Lucid Dreams is.
Yeah, I definitely like it for PvP with survival. I mean, pretty much the same thing, although it's like only unlimited resources in a short window. I mean, if you're doing PvE DPS as a survival hunter, for example, like you're weaving in kill commands and you're trying to Mongoose Bite and get, your 5 stacks. But I mean, in PvP, that global that you're using on a kill command is like no damage. So, I mean, if you wanted to actually do optimal damage, you just want to be spamming as many Mongoose as possible onto people. And I mean, it is really efficient. Like I've actually had so many times where if I just have uptime, I just crank out
God,
so
I
much
wish
damage that
the
it never happened.
plural of Mongoose was Mongai.
No, it's Mongoose, bro.
I
Goose.
want it to be Mongai. It's not.
Mongoose, dude. Mongoose.
Yes,
You wouldn't say
Mongai.
mongooses.
So someone, Chris in chat said Mythic Plus for Lucid sounds really good. Well, yes, it would help you spam more multi-shots. No, that's not very good. One, you have too much focus already. Like most of the time, if you're spamming multi-shot, you already have Aspect of the Wild up, or it's gonna come up pretty soon anyways. And
Just pull bigger forehead.
you can't even pull bigger with Beguiling, and so maybe it could be somewhat viable with Reaping just because you're spamming so much, but with Beguiling you're not going to be spamming nearly as much. If you've done Beguiling, you cannot do extra large pulls except for maybe in like Freehold or Motherload. I mean, you pretty much have to deal with the whatever emissary is there, and so you have to CC or knock the emissary out, and then you deal with the other 3 or 4 mobs. And then you might be able to CC one emissary, CC another emissary, pull 2 mobs together, which is 8. But you're pretty much going to be pulling 4 or 5 at a time, 6 at a time, 4 or 5 at a time. You're never going to be pulling 10, 20 mobs at a time like you are with Reaping right now.
It is. Sorry.
Oh, no.
I'll let you finish. Well, it is worth noting that at rank 3 you do get a 900 leech, which I'm pretty sure translates to a lot of it. So it might provide, couldn't you see it providing decent self-sustain on top of the potential damage benefits in Mythic Plus?
Well, not for BM. BM leech is Omega Lul, but for Marksman potentially, yeah. I see it a little more viable in terms of the multi-shot spam for Marksman, just because you do have the reduction. You obviously do reduce your true shot when you're spamming multi-shot or arcane shot with Marksman, and you do obviously you can have focus issues on prolonged pulls in Mythic Plus when you're playing Marksman.
Isn't it more that you run out of aim shot? Isn't it still more cooldown limited when the pulls get longer? Because starting a pull, you got 2 charges of aim shot and rapid fire, and you almost have no time to spend it all, especially during true shot. Then true shot expires, you use your final aim shot charge, and would more focus really help that much? I guess it bridges the gap between aim shots a bit better.
It helps a little. So Marksman, say you have true shot, you're opening on a 6 pull mob, right? You pop true shot, do your multi-shot, aim shot, multi-shot, rapid fire, whatever. Then you deplete your final aim shot, rapid fire once true shot's ending, and you basically are just waiting for more aim shots or rapid fire reset at that point, right? And so you're either steady shotting or multi-shotting. And obviously this, Lucid would help you in that moment to multi-shot more, which would reduce your true shot potentially for the next upcoming pack. But will it
I
help
feel like there's just
marksmen?
flat out better options, right?
Well,
like you
I
can find
yeah,
like there's
that's
some
what-
niche things. Like, it's okay. I mean, yeah, it's better than nothing. Sure, great.
What if it
But
was like
there
the
are
fire
much
mage one?
much better options.
What if there's what?
What if it was like the fire mage one? So the fire mage one, it gives your fire blast recharge rate, right? But if they did that for aim shot for marksman, that would actually be really good for marksmanship.
That would be
It's
really
Very,
good.
very good.
Like because focus, like you said, it's not much of a resource. I mean, no matter what. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's actually the aim shots because aim shot being gated by a cooldown kind of sucks wieners.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
If it reduced the cooldown of aim shot, that would be ginormous for marksman.
And then there's the chance to like get the reduction on the CD as well. So
yeah.
Yeah.
there's all that.
It's definitely overpowered for some class, like Destro Warlocks. They get a soul shard every time, and it refunds soul shards for them. I think I was looking at the logs of my Destro Warlock. He got like rank 1 on some fight, and he literally, his opener for the first 20 seconds was Chaos Bolt, Chaos Bolt, Chaos Bolt, Immolate, Chaos Bolt, Chaos Bolt, Chaos Bolt. Like, he was just spamming the shit out of Chaos Bolts, which, normally you're not able to do, but with Lucid, you're able to spam the shit out of it because they give you so many shards. Obviously that does not translate to hunters, giving us focus. We can't use more aim shots, or we can't use more kill commands or anything crazy like that. And so, yes, it does help, but there's much better options, is the bottom line.
Sorry, I found the Ripple in Space designer. Like this is actually who created it.
All right, let's move on. Conflict and Stripe. So this is another PvP essence. This is, I believe, just from World PvP is how you get it, right?
No, this one's from
no,
Arena.
Rated
Arena,
PvP,
Arena,
yeah.
that's right. And so this one is, if you don't know, the major power is actually pretty creative. It gives you a free PvP talent, and that PvP talent is designated ahead of time. For hunters, we get Explosive Trap, which is
Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, I really liked it when it was the survival tactics one. I wouldn't have a problem if it was high explosive either. The thing is it doesn't work like the older explosive trap is. Like if you're a PvPer, which makes me not want this talent. And if it did, it'd be different. Like it has a 40-second cooldown.
The thing that would
Traps are in. Oh, sorry, you go first.
So the thing that would have been good if it had stayed as the previous talent.
Yeah,
would be
that's survival tactics.
No
so
matter
it's like-
how shit your DPS is, you would have a raid spot. Like everyone remembers Tomb of Sargeras and Rogue soaking for that. You would be the new that. So it would have been nice for that.
I was genuine. I can't pronounce that. I was actually
Genuinely
excited for that, because I mean you can literally just ignore so many mechanics and raid, mythic play, even PvP. That would be so good.
There it is. That is the most Moofz thing.
I mean, in
going
PvP,
to
like I end
tonight.
up giving that as like an honor, like as an honor talent slot when I'm being trained. But like for most of the classes, it's something that you're almost always going to take, and like for a PvP benefit, it's like me going for conflict and strife. It's mostly just for the versatility benefit, because it's just so unreliable to have high explosives between the bugs. Between they changed traps no longer having an arm time; they're instant activation, but then high explosive double dips on that, and then the bugs that have that, and then it also does damage. So like you can't just like knock someone at the end of your trap, which is like something they never had before. So it's like you have all these things combined, and then it has like a 40-second cooldown compared to all your other traps at 30. And it's just, why would you want this ability if you're a PvPer? Really, outside of super niche situations. I definitely would have liked the survival tactics one, or just something else. I mean, for some.
However, the minor effect and the secondary effect.
Yeah, those are
actually
good.
Really nice.
Yeah. That part of it is really good. I think
even though we're memeing the high explosive trap part, this is still a desirable essence because of how strong that secondary is.
Yeah. So I think with
I already use that as
marksman
all the time.
Yeah, I think survival and marksman. I think even BM. I think Azor did a sim with. I think this is the one of the two minor traits that you want, just because of the versatility. And as we sort of mentioned it earlier, but all of the damage
everything's scaling off.
Everything scales off versatility, and this gives you a huge chunk of versatility very easily. And obviously versatility helps your damage a little. And
so maybe I should play with that more.
Survival and stuff like that. So
I should say, I believe Sims might be like overestimating. At least it's a while ago that I checked, but Strife is having 98% uptime in Sims right now.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that's realistic, given that
I'll
it's
literally
purely
go tell
by
you right
CC,
now.
right? No.
I'll go.
No, so you do get it's not like Cephers where you had to interrupt to get it. You get constant uptime, I'm pretty sure. Like it's I'd have to
Okay,
read it again now, but yeah, I don't think that's wrong. Instead, the interrupt you just get.
Yeah, no, this uptime's insane. It's like
Yeah, okay,
literally
it's 10
refreshing like crazy.
RPPM, so fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
It
this
just seemed a bit
this
weird
shit's
to me
funny.
initially.
Wow, why would I ever not use this? This is insane. I'm literally so super for not trying this one. I honestly was thinking about the focusing iris before, but
Yeah, so I mean, let's go on to the. So these are the ones we just covered were the general essences that any tank, DPS, healer can use. And then there are 5 additional tank, healer, and DPS specific essences. So let's sort of cover the DPS related. We're not going to obviously touch the tank or healing one since hunters can't do that. So
and
the
no one
first
cares about
one.
those cucks.
So the first one is Essence of Focusing Iris. So this one we currently do not have. And so a lot of this is just a lot of our knowledge is based on Sims, PTR testing, stuff like that. But from testing it, it looks like this is a very, very strong essence, both single target and AoE. The major is an on use every minute and a half, and it is just a beam that just blows everything up in front of you. And then the minor is just a chance to give you increased haste. The bad thing about the minor is that you cannot switch targets. It is only you have to be attacking the same target to benefit from the haste. As soon as you swap off of it, you lose that or have to rebuild it up.
it stacks up pretty fast though, from my experience.
Oh, does
And it does start back up at 3, but that might be at the max rank. Like
That's at
I'm
rank
actually
3,
I'm
I believe.
yeah, I'm actually like literally trying them all out right now as you mentioned them. That was before I was actually using the focusing iris, and even when I was swapping targets, I felt like it always had crazy uptime.
Yeah, so at rank 3, it is castable while moving. And so this is a channel. And so you're obviously losing 2.5 seconds of your rotation when you do this. It is not like the punch card that we mentioned earlier where you can just cast it and keep casting. So some specs, it might not be worth that GCD. I think for BM, it's one of our best. For marksman, I want to say it's also one of our best, and I'm not sure about survival. Azor Prox, do y'all know?
Survival is there's nothing specific about survival that makes it stand out. And survival is also depending on the build, basically down to no downtime in the same way that MM is. So, but it does do a crap ton of damage, but it does seem to fit better into the BM playstyle.
Yeah. This is also, so in terms of Mythic Plus, this is also one of our best essences in terms of Mythic Plus. The only downside to this in Mythic Plus, it doesn't matter in Raid, the minor, because you're basically attacking the same target the entire time. In Mythic Plus, obviously, you swap targets a lot. And so one of the downsides is the minor, so you may not use this in Mythic Plus, but it is a very strong option in Mythic Plus as well. So moving on, Condensed Life Force. So this is an amazing single target essence. So the good thing about this essence is that it is a 3-minute cooldown, and you summon a guardian, does a shitload of damage. And at rank 3, it also increases your haste by up to 10%, I believe, 10%.
Yeah.
And then the minor is you just have a high chance to deal damage to your target. So this is essentially the same thing as Crucible, right? You just have a damage proc, you just hit it, does damage. The good thing about this as opposed to Crucible is that it's 1 GCD every 3 minutes as opposed to, what is it? 6 GCDs every 3 minutes or whatever every 1 GCD every 30 seconds. And so I know for marksman, this is a very, very good raid trait. I believe it would be good for survival as well. I'm not sure about in PvP. Dilly?
I actually in PvP I did like that, I was testing it out yesterday when I was like playing some matchups. So when I had a really low uptime, it felt actually pretty decent. Not always the best at survival. I wouldn't think you would use those the other specs because of range, but like when I was fighting teams that I was basically just never playing my character. It did feel kind of good. I think that just the major part of it, and I mean the bonus damage is nice as well. But I feel like I still need to test it out. It is kind of awkward too for it to be like a 3-minute cooldown. Then
Yeah,
it's
that
just,
really you really have to make that count in PvP, I imagine.
yeah. Well, the thing is like if you have other 3-minute cooldowns that it lines up with, it maybe it's not as bad. But like
I mean,
if
you'll get to
you're bursting, you want to line it up
times while
with
you wait for
coordinates.
dampening.
Yeah. There's definitely that.
Do you know? Does the Guardian get LOS?
I don't know. The guy was like clapping people like constantly. Honestly, so I feel like it doesn't, or if it does get LOS, it just like moves around. Oh, also that the focusing iris thing, that shit's bugged. Because even if you swap targets, even if you swap targets, it's still you still get the thing. I literally just tried it like 3 times, so I'm pretty sure that has to get fixed.
Hey, if that's bugged,
You
it's really
basically
good.
just being in combat, like you just get the benefit from it. So yeah. Well, actually, no. Actually, I think at max rank it just says your damaging spells and abilities grant you 31 haste. Oh no, never mind. It says that if you stop using spells or abilities. Wait, no, I don't know. The wording is
Really
weird.
stroking out. You're right.
Yeah.
You need
It's
a
so
moment.
confusing. Like the wording should mean that like if you stop using spells or if you stop using ability. Like I don't know. I don't know how it's fucking supposed to be worded because we could all be wrong. It just has like 100% uptime.
Yeah, and
It's
so-
worth
Hard to-
noting that for the specs where it's really good single target in PvE, it's only really great at rank 3. That's where those 2 effects, the haste, but in particular the minor power actually. Where
Yeah,
it
that's
increases
one
your
that's
damage.
that's one that's
Yeah.
going to debate a lot of people where they're like, "Oh, I saw rank 3 was really good. I'm going to use
Yeah.
this." It's like, no, this is pretty dog turd until it gets to rank 3 and becomes Giga. Just call your jets.
Yeah, and it's really just for the damage and haste procs that, for marksman, you can pop that and then have that extra damage and haste during true shot, for example, or something like that. And then obviously the 3-minute cooldown with some specs sort of skews that a little. But yeah, overall a pretty decent single target trait. I would not recommend using that for AoE really.
Essence.
The other thing I wanted to mention, I saw some stuff about it in the chat. Most of these essences that summon a guardian or whatever do not scale off of like Bestial Wrath or BM Mastery, anything like that. Apparently Jay-Z did say that Animal Companion nerfs it though, so that's a good thing on
what a
Blizzard.
small Indo.
All the more reason to not use Animal Companion.
Yikes.
Moving on, Blood of the Enemy. So we sort of touched on this earlier. This is the battleground grindy essence that everyone has been living in BGs just to get. So obviously this rank 3 of this was obtainable, day 2 procs, day 3, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people.
So if you no-lifed it, you were able to
special.
get
Pretty
rank
special.
3, rank 4 even very early, and it was, I think, one of the only rank 3s that you were able to obtain last week, which is why so many people just went balls to the wall for it.
Yeah, and it's skewed because like last week was the week to do it. It wasn't like, oh my god, I can do this, I must do this. It was because
As
you
if
got
there
50%
wasn't enough to
last
do
week.
in the first week.
It's so
Yeah.
weird. This is such a weird essence because this would actually, it's like one from PvP, and this would be really good for PvP if not for the fact that crits weren't 150% in PvP and not 200%.
That's
like
a
that
strange
bonus-
choice.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
like because I was testing this on one of the dummies that they have, and I was like, holy shit, I got like 180k 10 stack Ladium Poison, and then I tried it on a person with this, and it was like 60k. I'm like, yeah, okay. There's no reason why I would want to use this then, because that's
Yeah.
like, so it ends up just being so worthless. So it's so weird for PvP outside of certain specs. Like I could see if you're at Destrolac and you know that you're going to be in melee range, maybe it's okay because I think Chaos Bolts get bonus damage from crit, and then
Oh god.
you also you would basically double stack on that, right? You get 25% bonus
double
crit.
dip.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
And
the
the crit
thing I'm
damage as well from
finding-
rank 3.
the thing I'm finding about this essence, just like, playing with all the other specs and talking to people and stuff like that, is that this spec really benefits classes that do instant damage. So like for BM, marksman, or whatever, like our cooldown is 15-20 seconds. Same thing, survival is more, if you extend to play birds of prey, it's 30-40 seconds or whatever. And blooded enemy, if you think about it, what you really want is it does the AoE damage. Obviously, that's nice, but you really want it for the 25% crit chance and crit damage, right? Which only
Yeah,
lasts for 10 seconds.
anyone who
And
can fit their whole damage,
their whole damage
their
profile.
whole damage into that window,
Yeah, so
it's
like
amazing. So rogues are the best example I can think
rogues,
of.
Demon
They
Hunter
do
with
so much.
Demon Hunter with Fel Barrage and Mythic Plus, I Beam, Fel Barrage, whatever, your entire meta is in 6 seconds, something like that. I think Ellie Shamans with their what's their chain lightning shit? The double chain lightning. Stormkeeper, the double Stormkeeper, and the
Yeah,
PvP
I should be good
trait,
at this, Ellie.
stuff like that. Yeah. So classes that have all their damage up front, this is an amazing essence for them because they benefit from that. Whereas BM, first of all, this is on the GCD, so you pop this, then you pop BM's 20 cooldowns that we need to pop to get ramping. And then by the time you do that, you have 5 seconds left. Or if you pop this inside of,
Why does BM have more cooldowns than rotational abilities?
I don't know.
Not far off.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I swear, if you playing that, like you absolutely
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, but I mean, same thing for marksman, right? Like you pop true shot, you pop this one, you already wasted a GC inside of true shot. Or if you pop this before and then pop true shot, then you're already 8 seconds in, and then you start casting your aim shot, and that lands at what 6 seconds left. Well, you just wasted 4 seconds of your damage proc, right, by not doing anything. And so in theory, it seems like a very good trait. For hunters, it's an okay trait.
There are better options.
I
Yeah.
think there's
The
still
major is
potential
okay, I should say.
in like the APLs and stuff. Because while intuitively it doesn't fit very well, especially into marksmanship. I think that if you try and play around it, you can get a decent usage out of it.
Yeah,
I was thinking you could do like some troll shit as like an MM hunter with that, like in PvP. Like if
Yeah.
you're like in an RPG and you just get that and you like maybe play double tap aim shot someone and you get
Yeah.
the crit
Yeah,
from
for
careful
sure.
aim.
For
with that.
example,
Yeah,
like
but then you're getting in 12 yards to apply it to them.
Yeah, and then at that point it's like it's so easy to apply like that you could just like if you ever die to it once, like okay,
Yeah.
like you got fucked. But like if you ever die to it again, like I don't know what to say about your like intelligence, but I mean like there's no way you die to that twice. Like
Yeah, like don't get me wrong, I agree with Azor. We could muck around with the APL and make it look better than it looks right now, but I don't see a world where you're making it better than the other options we have.
Probably
And you're in a
not.
world where we only get one major, so
Yeah, I
it's
think,
a lot of effort for no payoff.
I think Ghost has
Yeah.
been messing with the APL, and I'm pretty sure the optimal
He can't
is.
even close his drawers.
I'm pretty sure the optimal is to use Blood of the Enemy in place of an arcane shot, like at 5 seconds in, so that those 10 seconds are like the last, when you have
Yeah,
UV
yeah.
stacks and stuff like that, in your true shot. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ghost, but I'm pretty sure that's when you use it, and I can see it being good. I just, I just think there are better options.
Yeah,
than Blood
and
of
I
the
think
Enemy.
that's coming from the fact that we're in this week and next week when extra stuff unlocks, and the week after when that stuff becomes rank 3. I think that's when all the effort into optimizing blood dies off because you can roll a turd and glitter, but it's still shit.
Yeah. But even
Now,
as like BM aspect of the wild, you still have free globals even though you have focus overflow. Because sometimes there's situations where you cast your two cobras, and there's still a GCD to go until you kill command, but you don't want a barb shot during it for whatever reason. It's not time to refresh or something like that, and that's why I could see it fit in like 5 seconds or so after you pop aspect, for example.
yeah. So I think it's viable. It's I'd say mid tier. I don't think it's amazing for any of the specs. The minor is pretty good for I think all 3 specs.
No.
I think BM obviously loves crit, and the thing with BM about this, which is it's actually good for us, but our pet does not actually stack the minor trait, right? So the minor, if you're looking at it, it gives you stacks, and then at 40 stacks you gain haste, right? Well, our pet doesn't stack it, and so we actually stay at crit pretty long. I think we only actually benefit from the proc like 3 times throughout the fight, which is good for BM because we love crit.
And my testing, well, not testing, my actual play with it, where I would get 3 times that would reset to haste. Rogues were getting like 10 in that window,
Yeah.
so we're about a third of that whole cycle of ramping crit switch to haste, ramping crit switch to haste. But that's fine. Like you actually, for now, you want to sit at crit. It means sitting at high crit for longer as well, but then low crit for longer. It balances out. That's not inherently a bad thing that it's not getting those stacks as fast.
Yeah, and then for marksman, for example, rapid fire gets a stack every shot, right? And so I think each of the stacks, or each of the specs rather, have and then survival obviously just you're spamming a lot of stuff, and so you're
actually sorry to interrupt. Where that does become relevant is when you get the rank 3 and it has a chance to only consume some of the stacks. That benefits going through that cycle more times, getting that RNG more times, because then you get into the next one. So you should, in theory, get more time spent at higher stacks and more time getting the hit.
right. Yeah, that'll be definitely good for BM. And I think it's also good for survival.
Well, no,
have you messed
that
with that,
means
Joey?
it'll be bad for being
What,
compared to other people.
The minor for Blood of the Enemy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think my favorite minor is either going to be the Conflict and Strife or the or the Essence for the Focusing Iris. Like, I would just use those two. I mean, it could be okay, but I'm just thinking it's like you play so little crit, like in PvP, because you only stack haste first. So I have like 15% crit right now during the daytime because the Night Elf. So it's like okay, so it's such a low chance off of that.
Right.
That like I don't know if that Blood of the Enemy thing was combined with what is it? It's like the Unbound Force, like when your ability fails to get a critical strike, you get bonus crit or something like that. If those were combined, like maybe, but it seems like it just takes so long. It takes so long for such little crit, even though at 3 stacks, like it is giving you, crit stacks. It just seems, I don't know why wouldn't I want anything else? Like if I wanted that haste bonus, I could just get it from Focusing Iris, and if I wanted something else, I could just play Conflict and Strife.
Yeah.
Minor.
So good news to all you hunters. It is a decent trait, but I wouldn't waste your time farming 100,000 battlegrounds or 50,000 honor, whatever it is for the battlegrounds. Moving on.
I was just going to say, from a raid perspective, for now, World Veins probably going to take your minor. It won't take your major, and then you'll revisit the decision. You'll revisit the decision at 65.
Yeah. All right. So moving on, Purification Protocol. This is an on-use to major. You call down a giant beam of light in an AoE, so you just place it wherever. It does a lot of damage over 6 seconds. And then the minor just has a chance to do AoE damage. The thing that's really interesting about this is the rank 3 is that when an enemy dies within your beam, for the major, you gain 10% damage for 3 seconds, which isn't that bad, but if you have multiple enemies die, you constantly gain that 3% damage, right? And then also the minor, Mother just basically has a chance to kill a random enemy. And so on the minor, real quick, this does work in Mythic Plus on random mobs. It does not work for mini bosses or bosses, obviously, but it does work for random mobs that you have. And then the other aspect to this is that if you're fighting any aberrations, it automatically stuns them. So I'm trying to think. There are a couple aberration bosses in the raid, which obviously wouldn't stun the boss. I think there are some aberrations in Mythic Plus. I think like Gorgers and Wakecrest.
What even is an aberration?
Well, it's an aberration.
Yeah, okay. I don't, dude.
It's the definition is almost in the word. It's hard to
I
say.
have no idea what that is. Okay, is it the little ghosty
something
people?
abnormal, like
it's
oh god, If I was
Kind
witty
of
as
the
Prox, I could
shards,
come
for
up with something
example.
funny.
If it's like the shards, that sort of thing, they are aberrations. There's a bunch that fall into that category.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your
The-
haircut is
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
aberration. Yeah.
I mean, bottom line for this, if you have an AoE fight that's, the AoE's clustered, or this is probably our go-to essence for Mythic Plus. It does a lot of damage. I think Bloody the Enemy and Purification Protocol are the only two Essence of Focusing Iris are the three AoE traits, essences rather. I think Purification Protocol is really good for Mythic Plus. One, for the damage. If anything dies, you can just keep getting that 3% damage. But two, it just the fact that it can just randomly kill an entire mob that you're dealing with is like huge.
Yeah, it's really nice when you're dealing with like a pack of 8 mobs or something, and there's a few crucial mobs that need to be kicked, and it just gives 3 of them right off the bat. And now you're dealing with a 5-pack, and 2 of the mobs you had to interrupt are killed. Like, that can be quite a game changer. It makes things a lot nicer. Now, the odds of that happening are not very high, but if you're banging out like 3 of them, stuff can happen.
Well, just the pure raw damage from this trait alone, it's a 1-minute cooldown, so you can use it basically on every other pack that you come across in Mythic Plus, depending on how high a key you're doing. But it does a shitload of damage. I was doing some like 15 to 20 keys with this at rank 1. It was doing about 10 to 12% of my overall, and that's including a lot of AoE, beast cleaving, and stuff like that. And so it does a lot of damage. Whereas to give you perspective, rank 2 Blood of the Enemy was doing about 6% of my overall.
Yeah, now importantly, the annihilate damage. So when it one hits a mob, as far as I'm aware, that doesn't show as damage. Like if it does a million HP to that mob, it won't show. So if you're looking at, oh, this one did that much, but this one the other guy's running did that much, that one must be better. You probably did a lot more with
I don't believe it
purification.
shows. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, if you just immediately insta-give one of the mobs, that's ginormous in Mythic Plus. Definitely a game changer. So I'm pretty sure that's going to be the go-to Mythic Plus essence. We might be using Essence of Focusing Iris or Blood of the Enemy. Just from preliminary testing, I'm pretty sure it's Purification. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're not going to use this in PvP or raid too much.
Yeah, I can't see it.
Maybe there might be a raid fight that you might use this. Maybe like a fight like Zekvos, where you just have waves of ads that are clustered up every. I don't think there's a fight like that. I'm trying to think of the fights in the new raid. Or Opulence. Yeah, Opulence is a very good one, an example. Okay, so moving on, last essence. Unleash the Force. So you do fire damage over a couple seconds, and your damage is increased by 300% if it critically strikes. The minor, when your ability fails to critically strike, you have a chance to gain a stack. At 20 stacks, you gain 70% increased crit rating. Well, it used to be.
So
100.
this one also doesn't proc off pet attacks, and unlike before, that's a major deal and sucks serious horse cock.
Yeah. So basically, I don't think we need to talk about this too much. It's pretty mediocre for all hunter specs. I think even survival, I don't think this is amazing.
Yeah, this is an absolute joke.
Yeah.
This is
think
what
for
I would
some
put
classes...
in April Fools for a new essence.
I think for some
maybe
classes
the Blizzard
this is
team,
good, but
yeah, the Blizzard team got to create 2 essences each, and Ripple and Space Guy, this was his redemption arc.
Yeah.
Nah, it's kind of chill though. It's okay to have noob trap essences. Like someone's gonna take it, and then you can always just laugh at them.
It's worth noting that the minor is RPPM based, so the fact that the pet doesn't stack it shouldn't really affect it too much. But even considering that, it's not that powerful.
I'd miss that, yeah.
People are getting a bit caught out by the minor power because they're simming it, and it's doing like 1.5 to 2% of the damage alone, and they just can't believe why it is the case. Because they look at it, it's like over the whole fight maybe 2% uptime. But when you do the math on it, it does actually work out that just from the crit alone, even if it's only for short periods of time and not that often, it is actually like worth 2% or so on its own just from the minor power. Even though looking at it, it looks like the major minor power, they really work well together. But yeah, it's almost a shame that it's not very good because it's one of the more interesting ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was more
completely.
viable though
Yeah.
as 100% crit because I mean you could easily, marksman just throw an aim shot in, just sit on your aim shots and wait for, that window just to get that crit or something like that. And
That's a good point.
obviously
Well,
now it's
that's like the same thing with the Ripple. Like they're both really interesting ideas. I think they could just be like tuned better in better ways to make them more interesting. Because it's not like they're far off from being useful. They're just very useless. Things just.
yeah.
But it's not like it's not like it's unfixable. It's something that like you could put a band-aid over and you can fix it. It's not like they require like a full-on surgery
Yeah,
to
I agree.
fix.
I mean, the good news is we've seen evidence in the past of Blizzard getting debated by blood mallet rankings and doing their balancing based off that. So as long as those questionable tools show the bad stuff as being bad, then Blizzard will use those to do their job for them and hopefully fix them.
Yeah.
I still think the Ripple is
Yeah.
fake. I swear that it's a cool idea. If they want it as a utility essence, they just need to make it so it's like controllable. Like it seems like it's trying to be two things at once. Like is it utility or is it like a damage one? Like, and I think it's okay to have like utility essences, which is
100%.
interesting. Like it is interesting if they're not all like damage oriented.
The good thing about that, where some are utility or whatever, is it creates more situations where different ways you play the game, you use different essences.
Yeah.
That I like. Like, I don't mind there not being choice for a raid. And you're like, this is the raid one, this is best, I do that. What I like is like, okay, you use that one in the raid, and then you go to Mythic Plus, and suddenly this one is good, and now you're doing world content, and this utility one is such a nice quality of life that you switch that. Like, that's fine, that's good. What I don't want is, oh yeah, I sent my neck shit once 2 months ago, and I never look at it again. Like,
Yeah. No, I feel the same way. Like I was kind of disappointed. Like even just testing stuff around, like just playing around. I was like, oh, there's so many essences that could be good in theory, but probably are not going to be like that good. Like and it's just dependent on this. And honestly, I think some of that comes down to the fact that they're role wide essences, right? Instead of like class specific essences.
Right.
yeah.
Like that.
And, like,
That's the nature of it, right? If it's just designed to be role wise, like some specs are just gonna be so good. I mean, like the Lucid Dreams, like that's the one that ends up being really cool, or really lame. I mean, like it could be changed for some specs. Like if marksmen just make it aim shots, and then that actually makes like kind of an interesting essence for hunters.
Yeah. And I don't know. I hope they tune that. Obviously, that like this is the first week, second week they're out. I really hope they tune some of these damage, proc rates, customize it for different specs like they did for Fire Mage, stuff like that. But as of now, this is what we're, dealing with. And
I don't know how you guys feel about like with PvE tuning. Like honestly, for me, I usually prefer if like something's really broken and like something else is bad. Like, I prefer them to make like the bad thing better than like the good thing, bad too. Because like I feel like it feels more fun to play when you feel like you're overpowered, even if you're in reality like you're not overpowered, right? Versus you could be using the strongest thing, but then it's actually like you feel weak, but then you're really strong.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah.
And then it gives like a bad mindset for players too. I feel like because if you feel weak, even if you're like really strong, then it just like makes you like more inclined to complain. Versus like if you feel like you're playing something like really overpowered, but it's like actually balanced in the grand scheme of things, it's just like you can take pride in playing what you play. Because I mean, that's definitely something I used to feel as like hunter. I always be like, yeah, my hunter's so overpowered. But then you could look at another class like, well, that class is so overpowered, and like you could just always complain in like that way. But it makes it exciting, I think.
I mean, I'm a fan of more of buffing everything up to a certain level as opposed to nerfing it to a different level. Because
Exactly.
if you have a standard of you've been using this for 8 weeks and it's nerf all of a sudden, well, you just feel like shit. Like, oh, I feel so bad, like I just lost power. Whereas, you're using this OP essence or whatever, and then they buff others to the same level. It's like, oh, well, now I have options. Like maybe let's try this instead of feeling like shit. It's like, hey, I have options now.
Yeah, that's what I like. See, I like when they're going for the approach of giving people more options because then you could be more creative. You have so many more ways to play the game versus, they're still the same right way to play the game. It's just now this one is not as strong.
This just highlights how how sucky Animal Companion is, because there you have a talent that in most cases almost DPS neutral, many cases straight up DPS lost talent, right?
to
Like a
not
talent
even
that
take
makes you less
anything in there.
powerful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean that's a lame feel. I mean, and there's other things too. Like I don't know. This is something that I think about more as like a PvPer because they definitely have just gone over the role of everyone feels so weak and like scaling in PvP, for example, is really bad. Like basically, like you still do the same damage numbers you got like the first season of like the expansion, but then health pools are like so much higher. Like I have 360k HP right now
Yeah.
with like my full gear, and I still do the same damage I did when people had 150k health pools. And it's like you just feel so weak. Like when you're getting full gear, you don't feel like you're getting stronger. It feels like everyone is just like harder to kill, and then there's just so many. I don't know. It seems like I feel like there's maybe a mindset to make the game very forgiving so that other players like have like a more enjoyable time learning it. But then I think it's just better if you can just go into something, no matter what kind of game it is, just to be able to get clapped.
Yeah.
And like,
Aren't you excited for the 65 neck where you get what 9% HP? What is it?
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, we don't even have that. So like, we don't even have that, and I could already tell like, bro, this is super slow. Like, and like I said, I have like 360k HP, and then I would have even more. And then that scaling thing has made like some of the defensive trinkets that were nerfed for PvP even better than they were before, and it's just
Yeah.
it's very.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it. I am definitely loving it right now. Bring it up.
All right. Let's redirect. So we talked about essences. Let's talk about everyone's favorite new catch-up mechanic, Benthic gear. So if you don't know what Benthic gear is, hopefully you know what it is and have been farming for it. But Benthic gear is the new catch-up mechanic that they introduced in 8.2. Catch-up mechanic. It's meant for alts and stuff. So we sort of touched on it earlier. The mana pearl farming. So killing rares.
Opposite of it.
Killing rares and stuff like that gives you these so you can see here these prismatic mana pearls, right? And you can buy Benthic pieces that start at 385 level for 5 mana pearls from a vendor in Najatar, and they're account bound, so you can trade them to all your alts. You can farm them on your alts, trade them to your main or whatever. Upgrade them to 430 is the max eye level they go.
Wait, you can wait, you can actually get them to alts?
Yes, Dilly.
Yeah, so like
Yeah, really.
Wait, no, I actually
regardless of what its intention was, the implementation right now is that if you get a socket on a few specific pieces, they are better than base mythic gear. So you need that now for prog, and do not fish for that on your main. Buy the tokens on an alt, so that's what your alt pills go into. Yes, and then you send those tokens to your main. That's where you do your fishing. It's a really horrible system based on that. And once you get your sockets, leave it there. Don't pump all your pearls into it now. You don't need to upgrade it now because it's very likely that they will get some numerical changes. Like I'd be very surprised if there aren't.
Yeah. So part of the reason why it's overpowered, one, the strength of sockets, right? I mean, they just nerfed sockets because they were giving 60 secondary stats. Now they give 50. But even despite the nerf, it didn't really help anything, right? They're still sockets are worth what 15 eye levels or something ridiculous at this point.
Sockets are on. They're honestly, it's just the system for them is so bad because it's like you have McForging and then you have socketing. Like it's just, I feel like it's just so degenerate. Like,
yeah, I mean,
I guarantee sockets just help out so much. It just creates so many problems.
Coming into the patch, they also made that change that made all items that deal damage will now scale better with item level or whatever, which was a buff to stuff like Kimballs and stuff. But I don't think they predicted the knock-on effect that this would have on all the Benthic items that have damage procs, the braces.
So between the socket, between the versatility scaling plus the damage scaling that they introduced, which Azor just mentioned, and then the effects on the. So let's go over to. Okay, so here's a Wowhead guide on Benthic items. And so let's look at the male ones. All right, so you can get Helm, Spalders, and Chest Guard, right? Which they all have these new essence traits: Arcane Heart, Loyal to the End, and Undulating Tides. Undulating Tides is very good single target proc, and it gives you a shield, so very good defensively. I know currently this is actually the best in slot BM trait or BM chest for single target. I'm not too certain about some of the other pieces. I think they're okay to get, but not amazing to get. The pieces that you really want are these four. So you want the belt, the bracers, oh, the boots, and the gloves. So those are the four DPS ones that you want. So Azure, Proxy, I want to talk about, I guess why we want those four pieces.
Well, just real quick to add to the undulating tides thing, there is this major caveat with that, which is I think all three of the new Azorite traits, they have this downside to them. And the undulating tides one is when your health drops below 50%, you gain a absorb shield, good. But when this happens, like whenever you drop below 50% health, you will no longer get any undulating tides procs for 45 seconds.
Oh.
And
Oh, I
it
didn't know
procs
that,
on
actually.
average every 10 seconds. Like it's a 6 RPPM, so give and take every 9 to 11 seconds. So basically every time you drop below 50% health, you're missing out on 4 to 5 procs, right? So sims well, but in practice, not so sure it's really that good.
Dang.
I actually didn't know that.
Ain't that so? Yeah, I didn't know that either.
So looking at all these different options, so let's look at the bracers, right? And so Prox mentioned earlier that the gameplay, what you want to do is fish for tokens, right? A token is five pearls. You want to buy these on your alts, and so you just buy 10 different bracers, and the proc, you want two bracers procs. You want this one, where is it? You want either the pufferfish one, which is the best for AoE, and it's pretty good on single target, or you want the this one, the Oris, which does frost damage. And these procs do a pretty good chunk of damage. I think they do 3% ish overall over the course of a raid fight. And so that being on your bracers is, makes up for the fact that compared to a mythic piece that's, 15 eye levels lower or whatever, plus the socket obviously makes these amazing. And so the RNG aspect obviously is that you're fishing for these. You have 6 different bracers that you're able to get that you're trying to get with the socket, right? And so some people are super lucky. Like I think I got my socketed frost bracers on like the 5th try. Some people are on like the 50th token, and it's totally RNG. But I wouldn't upgrade them unless you have the socket. So looking at the belt, there's only 2 options, and either of these are really good. The physical damage is good in all situations. The aberration belt is really obviously only good for aberrations. There are
There's two aberration bosses, right?
Yeah. There are 2 aberration bosses in the next raid, so you do want to be wearing this belt for those 2 bosses. But other than that, you want to be wearing this belt. The boots, there are 4 options. The only one that you want is the crit damage, which is very good for all 3 hunter specs. And then for the gauntlets, the only one that you want is the Poens, which is the chance to do frost damage. And obviously, 6 different options for the gloves. Very hard to get those socketed, the proper one socketed.
Yeah, don't stress out about the gloves.
Yeah, and the gloves aren't too big of a deal because most people that are doing Mythic have the Unat gloves, or is it Unat? Unat drops them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, those are my favorite. They clap.
Yeah. So most people have the Unat gloves, and so obviously that also does a lot of damage, and it also has crit on it. So it's not that big of a deal. Something I did want to mention with the Benthic pieces in general is that the stats and the procs are tied to each other, and so you'll have different stats based on what proc you get. But if you get the crit damage proc for the boots, you'll always have haste versatility for those stats, and so those stats are not randomized. But if you get the the fall damage boots, then you always have mastery versatility. And so the stats are tied to the proc. They're not. I've seen some people say that the stats are randomized. They're not randomized. The which piece you get is randomized. Do y'all have anything else to add? I mean, how's y'all's farm on the Benthic gear going?
Yeah,
Yeah, I've been playing it conservatively, so I haven't, I've been holding on to my pearls, haven't been gambling on anything. Only been opening tokens that I get from world quests and whatnot. Only got one of the good items socketed. The rest I'm just holding on to. Then I'll maybe have if they don't know, the reason I'm holding on to it is because, they might change them, they might nerf them, they might make them so they don't work in the raid and stuff like that.
That's exactly it. The long and short of it is, don't waste your shards gambling on your main. That's what your alt shards are for. Nice alt catch-up mechanic, Blizzard forehead. And there's kind of diminishing returns on your pearl farming. Like if you are just going out doing the content, then you're probably pretty comfortably getting around like 30, 40 pearls a day. And that's a decent amount. And then you can do like real mind-numbing, constantly flying over looking for stuff to get more. And you will. So if you need more, you can do that. But the least cancer way to play it is to just go for that like 30, 40, 50 for the day, call it quits there.
Yeah. I've actually gotten extremely lucky. I have 4 out of the 5 socketed pieces. And that's including both belts. So the only one I'm missing are the gloves socketed. But I also have 5 different alts that I've done the intro quest on and that I've been farming pearls on. And so I've been funneling the shit out of my main, which I think is the play to do it, as Proc said. You want to use all your main's pearls to upgrade. You don't want to be wasting your main's pearls on, buying the tokens. But again, I would definitely suggest waiting. I'm pretty sure they will be nerfed somehow. Maybe take the sockets away, maybe reduce the effect. There's no way that they let us have 4 best in slot pieces before Mythic even starts. Well, they'll probably change it 3 weeks after Prague or 3 weeks after the Mythic starts. But yeah.
The alternative is they just look at how much Benthic gear we're buying and they're like, wow, people are equipping this. This is a great success. We have succeeded in our design.
I'd be okay with it if it was just like the stats. Well, if they nerf the bonus effect. I actually like that. Like, see, because if I just PvP, like having the ability to have targeted stats is a little bit nicer because we don't have like gear vendors or like, in like there's like a specific loophole on if you could get your optimal stats from like PvPing. So it's like kind of awkward. Like you have to do so many other sources. Like you have to do Mythic Plus. You have to do like every little thing. So at least like some of the things, like the bracers and the boots, like you get haste first. Like that seems at least nice. But then like the bonus effect, like I'll never notice it because it doesn't. Yeah, it's literally just for that raid, right? So it's like
the raid and then the zone.
Yeah.
So I guess
another
PvP questing.
Yeah.
Another problem with the Benthic, another problem with the Benthic is that, these effects that do damage and all that stuff, they're just not really fun because you don't notice them.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you're going to be farming this stuff and it's going to make your character more powerful, but you won't feel it, In all the numbers that appear on your screen, you're doing damage. It's going to be invisible. It's only going to be visible on the DPS meter afterwards.
Actually, where it is outside of raids, when you're just running around the world and like RPPM and stuff is ticking up and you come to a mob and everything procs on it at the same time and you just like one hit a mob out of nowhere. Like that you notice and you're like, all right, yeah, that was kind of fun.
Yeah.
But that only exists in like doing your world quests.
Yeah. So someone in chat asked about the leatherworking crafting gear. Will that be better than Benthic? So at this point in the raid, Benthic is actually better than leatherworking. It's better than, I'm pretty sure it's better than 455 socketed base pieces.
Yeah, Benthic is around 1.5 to 2% better than 445 non-socket. And sockets after the nerf are probably worth like 0.7% DPS. So, the sockets are only really accounting for like 1/3 of the margin by which they are better than the raid items. And
so you'd still do the leatherworking pants as the boots. And
generally the game is laid out in such a way that 15 eye level is around 10% damage, I think, or so.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, when it comes to 455, it's probably going to be borderline at that point, depending on the items and also the stats on the raid pieces. But you're not just going to go in and get 455 raid pieces. You know?
Right.
Wow, some of
It
us
also
are.
depends.
Some-
Yeah, some of us, yeah. But it also depends on where those raid pieces drop in the raid. Some are from later bosses, some are from earlier. I don't know the exact layout of items spread throughout the raid, but it's a thing to consider when choosing the Benthic pieces to upgrade is when might you be replacing them, potentially.
Yeah.
Especially if you are, because you're not going to be able to upgrade all the Benthic to 425 socket right away, even if you have all the pieces. You're going to be having to make a short-term choice for early proc, but then you're also going to have to take the long-term into account. Because the tier, especially for most people watching, it's not about having the strongest character day one mythic. It's about having the strongest character for
The end boss.
the start of the end boss. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
For hardcore raiders, those are one and the same thing because first boss and end boss might be in the very same week. But
Yeah.
that's not the case for most people.
Yeah. All right. So I think that's enough about Benthic gear. So I think everyone's question that everyone's been wanting to hear and asking in Discord and stuff. Predictions on Hunter in 8.2. So as of now, the upcoming raid, Mythic Plus, PvP, etc. So Azor, what are your predictions? Like, where do Hunters stand? Generalization, right? Like, obviously, you don't know how all 30 specs are relative to Hunters, but what's your opinion on just
I
right
don't know.
now?
I mean, for once, we came out of a tier pretty good. If anything, perhaps a little bit stronger than we went in. In Uldia, for example, we were pretty good, like, the top, not the top, but like the top 25% as BM. And then by the end, we were like one of the worst range DPS. In BOD, we went in sort of average, and now at least MM is pretty close to the top, and BM is not far behind. So if the best predictor of future performance is past performance, I think, if all goes well, we'll be in the top quartile at least,
Yeah,
with at least one of our rate specs.
yeah, and I'm thinking the same. I mean, BM and Marksman, and even Survival with the new Essence, like I think all of them are scaling fairly well. I
Yeah,
think
look, BM always looks particularly good in the first week or two as well, because while everyone's working out what's going on and you're doing the same, you don't lose anything. Having to work out,
Right.
it was the right time to cast for that. If you screw up your cooldowns, all right, well, best your rat's back in like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So historically, BM's always looked pretty good in that first week, and then as people learn to play, start to come down a little bit. But
Yeah, exactly.
based on like very tentatively where we are right now and how much we gain from the new stuff relative to everyone else, I'm optimistic. Like, we should be pretty good. You're not going to be way top in the raid because non-stacked cleave is again a thing. But in terms of relevant damage on priority targets, we are a very good choice. And we don't have to worry about sliver bullshit. Oh, do not pour water in the keyboard. Jesus.
Dilly, how are we looking in PvP?
So pretty much the only like really good testing I was able to see with like full gear was yesterday. I was able to do a lot of war games on the tournament realm, which has you have your 445 gear, is as close as you're gonna get to basically like end in season. Survival Hunter actually did feel really good, like better than last season. Last season it felt like when you played on the tournament realm, like you were completely fucking worthless. Like you're actually like just a useless dog. Like you're like fucking Bambi's mom. Like you're just dead. And then if he did Crucible of the Storms, like he could actually be useful, which like kind of felt really weird, but like it feels really playable. Like I really like Lucid Dreams for like what it like helps that Survival Hunter and PvP. Like it actually gives out like some way to do damage.
Yeah.
It's like quite potent if they let you off. Like I've actually had times where I've like soloed people and I'm able to do things by myself. BM Hunter, I still could see it being useful in some situations, because one of the best things BM Hunter has is that Wild Protector. So it basically, anyone near your pet gets a 10% damage reduction, which is actually like really useful in a matchup that you just kind of want to do nothing but fuck off and like have your melee kind of do damage. Like you want to play with like a Ret Paladin. It's actually quite good because you give them the ability to kind of stay in and do whatever you want, and you can kind of just like not engage in the fight. You could just be like a passive BM Hunter. Marksmanship, I feel like it'd just be good in RBGs. I don't really see too much changing in it. Maybe it's like slightly better in RBG settings, but I still feel like it's going to be just as mediocre in Arena as it has been. Like it has the ability to maybe, you know, cheese someone when you play marksmanship in like Arena, but if you ever die to him more than once, like it's on you. So I feel like if you're looking to Arena, you want to play survival or you want to play PM, and if you want to do BGs, you can play marksmanship.
Yeah. So I want to touch on Mythic Plus Season 3. So obviously the new affix is Beguiling. If y'all haven't checked that out, there's tons of stuff. You can Google it. What it is there's different emissaries, different packs throughout the dungeon. It's sort of like Infested, how it's just randomly spread out, but each of these emissaries do different things. And so that being said, the Reaping meta of just, you know, pull everything, AoE everything down type, you know, play style is no longer there. Now it is very more controlled. You're pulling smaller packs at a time. That being said, BM loses a little value because you can no longer benefit from rapid reload from, you know, the 20 million Reaping mobs. But I'm pretty sure BM, you know, this is me feely crafting, but pretty sure that BM is going to be the better spec still. Even if marksman or survival, I don't think survival's relevant in Mythic Plus still, but I'm pretty sure even if they do about the same damage, BM has more utility. They're able to dispel. They have Spiritmen, and obviously you can move whenever you want. You can pet taunt. There's just a lot of stuff that BM can do that Marksman cannot do. However, Marksman will catch up to BM in terms of relevancy. And currently in Reaping, you basically always played BM. You were able to play Marksman, but you basically hindered your team if you were playing Marksman, right? Less survivability, no heal, no soothe or whatever. If you wanted to pull out a pet to do that, you had to dispel. You lost 10% damage. But now that all of the mobs are more like the 4 to 6 mob range, it really caters towards marksman. And I think you'll see a lot more marksmanship hunters in the Mythic Plus scene. And like I said, I don't think survival is relevant still.
Please.
I just wanted to say that again, just for Dilly.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it feels like it does good damage, but I see why there's so many issues. So that just because dealing with the mechanics as survival hunter is like really brutal.
Yeah, I
But-
mean, I don't think it would be bad, but I think things don't live long enough for survival to be relevant, right? Like you waste so many GCDs just putting up serpent stings on everything on like 3 to 4 mobs, and then like you
yeah,
just don't
well, sometimes when it's like a bunch of packs, honestly, if I like when it was like the Reaping, I would just not even. I'd play the wildfire clusters and I just
right.
play wildfire and future. Like I would just be like, fuck it, I'm not doing that.
Right, but like aside from your
Yeah.
bombs, you don't have any real AoE, right? I mean, you have, you know, carve and butchery is not a thing.
Yeah, I feel like
Well, carve is good for the bomb
middle-
cooldown reduction. Like honestly, I do notice like when you are AoEing, like it is actually pretty decent. Like there are definitely times where
they're better than we give them credit for. But they just exist in a world where rogues and monks.
yeah,
and, like,
Yeah,
yeah,
like
demons
yeah,
Mythic
have, like,
Plus,
better melee options
it's
exist.
way more meta-driven in Mythic Plus than raids.
yeah, that's what I think too.
So
I
like
think it's just
like
there's better
Moofz said,
melee.
maybe MM becomes a bit better relative to BM, but if it doesn't exceed it, almost no one's gonna play it, right?
right.
Yeah.
Except
Yeah.
for Ghost. Weird.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just one of those things, like you said, for survival. It's like why would you? I mean, it's the exact same thing in Raid. Why would you bring a Survival Hunter if you can bring a Rogue or a Demon Hunter or a Monk? Or
Yeah.
something that, benefits everyone else as opposed to, I mean, yeah. I mean, it's just the Mythic Plus meta is just very particular. And honestly, I don't think it's going to change a whole lot going forward. Just because you're still going to want a Rogue. Like Outlaw, they actually buffed Outlaw with the change in the Blade Flurry, because instead of doing a shitload of AoE damage, it does more mid-range AoE. Well, this new Beguiling's mid-range AoE focus, and so they just buffed the shit out of Outlaw. Assassination's good. Sub's probably good now because you want to sub down the emissaries. So Rogue is still viable. You still want a Windwalker or Demon Hunter for the buff, right? And then I'm pretty sure you're going to want at least one range DPS, just to deal with the emissaries and stuff like that at this point. Hunter's looking pretty good. I think Fire Mage is looking very good. A couple of the others, Spriest and Ellie Shaman are pretty viable as well. But yeah, I just don't see a place for a Survival Hunter. And like Azor said, I think you're still going to play BM unless Marksman blows BM out of the water. I think you're still going to play BM.
I mean, it makes
There's
sense.
non-damage considerations as well, like survivability, ease of play, flexibility, swapping targets quickly.
Yep.
Yeah, Survival
All
has
that
like
stuff.
none of those.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's definitely fun. Like, there's times where I could be like, oh, I have big DPS numbers, but it's like there's so little reason to still deal with that, anyways.
Yeah.
Like, like you said, like I mean, it's gonna be the same in like a PvP environment. Like, it wouldn't matter. Like, marksmanship could do like a fuck ton of damage in PvP, for example, but it's useless in arenas for like same reasons. Like, yeah, you're gonna die. Like, there's no reason to pick you. Like, you have shit utility in comparison.
Right.
I, for one, am going to miss reaping. Sad times.
Yeah.
And I get the
yeah.
logic where they're like, oh, it was a bit too easy. It's like, okay, well, you have a mechanic for making this progressively harder. It's key levels. So you have a affix that makes it more enjoyable. And the trade-off for that is you probably go a couple of key levels higher. It doesn't sound like bad game design, but they saw it as a...
Well, that's like back to that same thing. It's like you could have everyone feel overpowered and it's fun, or you could have everyone feel weaker.
Exactly.
Like, it's just way more enjoyable for everyone to feel really overpowered. Like just people are going to like playing the game more. Like, you're gonna want to log into the game if you just feel like you're OP regardless.
Yeah.
But if you're overpowered and it's just unnoticeable, then like, fuck, like, you just...
Yeah, I
you
mean,
just hate
if you think about the affix, right? You're going from reaping, where it's like, hey, let's pull everything and its mom together and AoE everything, 40, that's fun. Like, people like big dick numbers and AoEing everything.
Yeah,
like
the unholy DK shit.
Yeah,
where,
like, it's just fun to feel, like you're doing a shitload of damage. And then you go from that to, all right, let's CC this mob, let's pull it 20 yards away, let's kill it, let's kill the other. It's like you're slowing down everything so much, and you're killing 4 mobs at a time. It feels, very, very slow. And at first, the emissaries didn't even give you percent for Mythic Plus. They were literally just a roadblock, and now they do give you a little percent. One of the things that a lot of the Mythic Plus people wanted was that, when you kill an emissary, you get some sort of buff. Like killing a Void Emissary, you get 300 haste for 5 minutes or something like that, which, it still gives them, the sense of control, but it gives us as players, like, one, variability. Like, you can choose to skip it, or you can choose to kill it to, get a buff or benefit, or it just adds options for us to do, and adds more fun. And I don't know, but I agree that that it definitely feels like they're trying to slow down the game or nerf us, as opposed to buffing us and letting us do whatever.
It's weird. It's almost like I feel like they're trying to get like the mindset of like classic, where the game is slow, but it's slower for different reasons, and you still feel really strong. And I feel like they didn't really have like a good idea of how they want to achieve what they want to achieve, and they're trying to get it through artificial means, but that's not the way to doing it, I think.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, one thing that I just noticed, like, playing WoW lately is like it feels more like an MMO and less like an RPG. Like it does feel like I'm playing an online game, but I don't really feel like the same exact attachment to my character. And
Yeah,
like,
I can
cause
see
you
that.
you feel like such a fucking piece of shit sometimes. Like you really, I mean, like for real. Sometimes you just.
What do you mean? You don't like grinding to 55 AP neck and doing 15,000 honor of BGs and
No, dude, I feel like a slave. I don't know, I feel like
Yeah.
I'm doing it out of like my enjoyment of the game. Like I remember I used to love doing BGs, and it's literally nothing because I'm older. Like, because I mean, it's like I always see that argument get brought up, but like, I mean, if that was the same argument, people wouldn't fucking like playing like classic WoW and shit like that. But there's definitely like reasons why people want to play those.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. All right. So those were all the topics we wanted to talk about today. We're gonna give you the next couple minutes. We're gonna open up the questions to Twitch chat. So if y'all have any questions, just add us or whatever, and we will answer away to the best of our abilities.
I will be right back. One of the two of us has shit our pants, and which one might surprise you?
It's you.
I don't envy you, man.
We're
How
gonna
about the
ignore
rest
Lux's
of our
question.
wives? Oh, okay. Oh,
My wife's actually in Bali without me right now. She's living it up. And yeah.
how are the new trinkets looking from Raid? Two of them aren't implemented in the sim tools, and two of them are pretty good, pending sort of further investigation. At least on my part, not much has been looked into as far as the trinkets go, but at least it's not like invocation style. You know, at least until the BM crit build sort of surfaced, the Mega Torque trinket wasn't that great either. We should have more competitive trinkets in the new relative to like Mythic Plus, and they're also more interesting.
Azor, since I don't have DoD pieces, should I stack mastery or still stack crit?
Well, as as with so many of these questions, the answer is usually to sim yourself. If you don't have any DoD pieces at all, then maybe you have a Primal Instincts piece. But even then, you know, the Primal Instincts is gonna give you so much mastery that crit may well still be your best stat. And I'd say even looking aside from DoD, crit is still the better stat for BM. But you're not as desperate for it without DoD, without one with the pack and all that stuff. If you sim highest with the PI build, go for it. You know, if you're wondering what to gem, you can also find that out in Top Gear. Yeah. You want to take the next one?
Oh, me?
Reasons behind melee survival. Will range survival return? Dilly, what's your prophecy?
Mine? I don't know. I mean, I feel like they could just have both. I feel like, honestly, like, people sometimes just say a 4 spec, but I swear, like, the old marksmanship and survival could have literally been combined to, like, 1 spec. Like, I like, instantly do this, dude. Like, you used to have, like, let's say you take MOP, you have survival hunters have lock and load. Marksmanship hunters have the instant aim, like, procs,
Yeah.
right? Survival hunters have explosive shot. Marksmanship hunters have Chimera Shot. Survival hunters have Black Arrow. And MM hunters have aim shot, and then one has Steady, one has Cobra. You just make
Serpent
a talent.
Sting. Marksman used to
Yeah,
have Serpent Sting.
yeah, they both had Serpent Sting, right? So they both shared that. They both had like Kill Shot, Hunter's Mark, whatever. Crazy. Make this talent. Genius. Just thought of it. Check this out.
All right, here we go, Dilly. Here we
you
go.
just you make the talent.
Just fire it up.
You
This
make
is
the
what he's
talent,
been waiting
right?
for.
And you just swap your Chimera shot, your steady shot, and your fucking aim shot, and your Master Marksman proc into lock and load, explosive shot, Black Arrow. Oh my god, holy shit. Who would have fucking thought? Because obviously they changed the specs because they were like, wow, they're too similar, so why not make the same spec? Keep the same way. Everyone loved playing both of those specs. Boom, crazy. One talent fixes it all. You could call it the talent 1000 IQ play, and there you go. Leave it at that. So fucking easy.
Yeah,
Took me
personally,
like
I-
Hire this guy. What the
Dude.
fuck?
Yeah, dude. Dilly, why don't you work for Blizzard?
well, you see,
This is all just a job interview for.
This is a job interview. I don't know.
Oh no,
I want
audition.
to. I want to teach math. Something's
Alright.
wrong with me.
All right, next
like the
question. Very
PvP.
serious, Prox. Just in time for it. What's your favorite ice cream flavor?
I'm a big fan of mint choc chip. I'll be
You're a
real.
mint chocolate chip guy.
I am.
I feel like the ice cream. Honestly, it depends. Depends on like the type. You know what I mean? Because like if you get like a Ben and Jerry's ice cream, you might get a different flavor than if you had like a Haagen-Dazs or like a Baskin Robbins. You know what I'm saying? Like you could
That's
have your
true, that's
general
true.
ice cream flavor, but like each type of like ice cream company brand, whatever, there's just better flavors from all of them. Like I had this like fucking Bluebell peanut butter jelly ice cream the other day, and I was like, damn, this shit is
Ooh.
bomb as fuck.
I'm a cookie dough guy myself.
Yeah,
love
cookie
cookie
dough is like that's like a really good general one. Like good general ones like cookie dough, something maybe
Yeah.
with like caramel.
Cookies and cream. Oh yeah.
Yeah, cookies and cream. Yeah, like those are like good
Oh,
general
yeah.
flavors, but then like, you know, each company might have one that it just fucks ass and like you have to go with it. Like
Fuck's sake. I really like. You can get this kind of gelato with hazelnut flavor. It sounds a bit strange, but
Look at him pretending like he doesn't just drink motor oil.
All right. Lemon said, "Will rapid reload be less viable with smaller pulls?" Yes, we mentioned that earlier. But yeah, obviously you're not going to benefit as much from the spam since you don't have 20 targets with reaping. It will still be viable. Obviously, a minute and a half, aspect of the wild versus a 2 minute or a minute, depending on how big you pull, is still better than no reduction at all. So you're still going to want the trait. You just won't benefit as much.
Yeah, I still feel like you'll get quite a few really big pulls. It's just there's not the whole reaping. And reaping was fantastic because it was like you could go into it without cooldowns and you would still get your cooldown and reset the cooldown for whatever came next. So that's going away, but it's still pretty good.
Let's see. Would a fourth spec similar to the old SV with dots be something you'd like to see? I
with
think they
what?
just
Sorry,
need
fourth
specs
spec
similar
with
to
old survival dots be something.
I
you like.
mean,
I think you
who
just
would
make
say
the current
no
survival.
to most choice?
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
But they don't have to make it. They could just.
Yeah.
Why not just have 11 specs so there's something for literally everyone?
I'd
Yeah.
also be okay
You'll-
with like your class mattering more than like your spec. Like I feel like
There's
now it's
always
like
the,
each spec is like a
the
different
Final
class.
Fantasy model.
But
where
that's something the developers have touched on actually anyway. They finally acknowledged they're like, oops, we went too far down spec identity, and as a result, we actually sacrificed some of the class identity. Turns out, as a decision process, that makes the game eat ass. So they're trying to fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I like some of these things they don't affect like PD or like other parts of the game as much, but like I always thought it was cool. Like if you were a frost mage, like your frost spells were better, but you still had like you still have Scorcher, Fire Blaster, you'd have all these things, and I mean those little things would actually be like quite situational in like PvP. Like you're locked out, it's like, well, I'm gonna cast this. It doesn't do that much, but I mean it's like still cool. Like, and if you're like smart enough to actually like utilize that, you get rewarded for it, which like just makes you feel good as a player. If you're just like, well, I could consistently do this cool thing that it's maybe so minor, but like maybe it adds up. Maybe it makes me like better than someone else, and it just like makes you want to just like no life sit on there like 24 hours a day, like a crack fiend. Now we only crack fiend because we're trying to get Azeroth or Azerite gear instead of crack fiending just because we want to like play the game.
Yeah. Next question.
Give me that AP.
Give me some Azerite injections.
When will Trumpetti or Limbo be on the podcast? We do plan on having guest speakers, guest appearances on the podcast. Obviously, we will announce it. We haven't lined up anything right now, but we will be talking to different hunters in the future about guest starring on the show. What gets nerfed first? Boomkins with Vision or Benthic gear? Probably Benthic gear.
Yeah. You always have to expect a thing that benefits the general population is going to be hit more than something that only benefits one spec. Like always, no matter what it is. Like they're always going to go for sweeping changes to things that affect everyone.
The reason I think the answer to that is Benthic is because the Boomkin nerf will take longer than expected to come in. So, I spoke earlier about how BM always looks good in the first week as people work out their movement, adjusting the fight, blah, blah, blah. Well, for that same vein, Boomkin tends to look worse than it actually is in those early weeks because it gets punished a lot more than a lot of other classes for movement because the thing it can't cast while it moves is its resource generator. So not only in those situations where like, fuck, I fucked up how you react to this and now I'm having to move way more than I normally would, they are also not getting, A, they're not doing any damage during that period, B, they're not getting any resource so that when they come out of that period, they can do damage. Then finally they get to plant feet, get some resource and get back up and running. Now, as they get used to the fight in a couple of weeks, and when you're progging in Mythic and you do fucking 20 wipes in a row before you're like, oh yeah, that was it, all of those concerns go away, and then you start to just smash. So
Yeah.
I think at that point, people will go, ooh, Boom is really good, and Blizzard are so fucking slow to react to any of that shit that
Well, once it's like the thing is, most of the changes also happen immediately after like the first like raid week. You know what I'm saying? So it's like the longer it takes for something like that to happen, the less likely it also is to be changed, unless they strictly go off of logs and like hypothetical. If they're assuming that unless they pre-nerf something, then yeah, I think you're absolutely right in that regard.
Yeah. Next question. So what spec will you guys be maining for raid on Tuesday? Personally, I'm going to start off with BM. I have my options I have marksman stuff set up. I just think BM's just always better, right off the bat. They're looking pretty even as far as I can tell. And then obviously BM is just better the movement, and you just don't really we sort of mentioned it earlier, marksman's punished a little more if you have to move during true shot or you don't know the timings of the fight or whatever. BM, you get Bestial Wrath back up in 20-30 seconds, so it doesn't really matter that much.
The bigger thing
least-
for me is knowing like when to target swap or what targets are more important. Like MM is so spiky on moment it spikes that if you're outside of one of those and something important is happening in the fight, you just a fucking weight around everyone's necks. Like you're doing less damage than you contributed mob to the health
MM
outside of those
is
windows.
very inflexible when it comes to
Yeah.
like quickly dealing damage to the right things, and like it
Once
really
you
only excels
know-
when you're hitting the same target for a long time, or if you can save your things, but even sometimes that's just not enough.
Yeah, exactly. So for that reason, I'm going to start as BM.
Yeah.
For me, my marksum is about 1,000 ahead now. Like my BM has crawled back up to about 38k, and my marks are sitting at like 39. It's close enough that I'm still going to be rocking BM to start with, based on that.
Yeah, but you don't have to commit to anything now because the essences and stuff, they're pretty global. It's kind of the same few essences we're looking at being really good. At least right away, you're not gonna be, you're always gonna be gambling for, Ace Ride helms, but for both BM and MM, and yeah. So, but I think for me as well, just to answer the question, it's BM with a side of MM depending on the fight and whatnot.
I actually like that. Like, I didn't even think about it, but like, just the fact that like essences are more spec friendly than Azorite gear is, in general,
Yeah.
which is actually kind of nice.
Yeah, that's
How
what I
they're
sort of.
so alt unfriendly.
All unfriendly, but at least it's friendly enough to your main character. And honestly, it wouldn't even matter if it was like alt unfriendly if like didn't feel like you'd need to play alts. Like, I don't know, just me though.
I do find it funny though, like we've become so conditioned to getting fucked for changing spec that now like just the ability to go, oh, I can select different essences without being punished for it. We're like, oh, that's really friendly. That's great. It's like,
yeah,
that
it's
is
like, well, I should have been able to do that
some
anyways.
Stockholm syndrome. Yeah.
Yeah,
If I raid, I'll do survival.
yeah, of course.
Which I expect to not do.
That's all right for reading.
I mean, you're fine. You've got
Unless I
more
need to
time
read.
up your sleeve, Dilly, because LFR doesn't open for like 3 more weeks, so it's fine.
I have I don't even remember which mythic boss I've done, but I did. Oh, it was opulence because I need that fucking dumbass trinket.
Okay, a couple more questions, and we're gonna wrap it up here. Lynn, have you guys found any specific raid mechanics where hunters would be desirable? I haven't done a whole lot of testing. I think Prox has probably done more testing than I have. But I think there's a couple things you need to soak. I don't think there's anything where you like need hunters.
Yeah,
Um,
nothing's jumped out that I've seen so
yeah.
far, but
What about the mechanic on Ashvane? I don't know the details of it, but there's these absorb shields that kind of lock her health for a long time at above 80 and below
yeah, so that
35.
on that particular fight, marksman bangs very hard at the start because you kind of get like two careful aims really at the start. And I know in testing there was a lot of playing around over like just do your normal openers on this one, and then when it bursts, will last on the second part. And so potentially you could bang pretty fucking hard as marks on that fight. But I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, in terms of like, I don't know, things like Hunter escorting on Jaina and doing the kick at the end because your Warlock's forehead. I haven't seen things like that, but I've also not particularly been looking for them. They'll kind of come up organically, or people will find them during the day raid. And
Yeah.
yeah,
And I'm sure once we're, progging on Mythic, there's going to be, some mechanic that, oh, hey, we can feign death this, or hey, we can, whatever, that we sort of
The
discover
survival
like during
tactics
prog.
lore.
Yeah. Survival tactic. Yeah, I wish we had that, but
Same.
but yeah, I think it's a little too early to say like, hey, Hunter's amazing, or at this point, it's basically, if we can do it, then most other classes can also do it, type thing.
yeah. I can't remember if there was anything where you would turtle clear. I need to redo some research, but
Yeah,
yeah,
me too.
I don't recall anything jumping out like that. But I mean, there's a lot that aren't immediately obvious like that. Like you never heard people talking about that for Restless Cabal, but that was actually a really good usage. Like in that 8-second clear with speed
Yeah.
boost, you could clear so many of those orbs that selfish retards are just getting sucked
Yeah.
into endlessly.
Yeah, or even just turtle on like your nat beams.
As a retard,
or...
I'm offended.
Sorry,
or
what?
just
Use
turtle
the
on
R
the
word.
turtle on your nat
I said as a
beams, or
retard, I'm
turtle on
offended.
the to keep your debuff on the first boss in COS. But again, multiple other classes can do that stuff too. So when do we think Blizzard will finally fix survival once and for all and bring back it being
I
useful?
switched them back
how
to
would you
main,
guys
like,
fix it?
and it's arranged. I would switch them back to ranged, and then just pay for counseling for the 4 people that are playing it.
Dilly.
Or alternatively, just have those.
Like
4
if range
kills
hunter
as
was
a
like
perfectly affordable
enjoyable.
alternative as well.
I would rather play like marksman, like Wrath or Cat or Mop.
Dude,
I mean, I'm only playing
remember-
survival because if you play the other ranger, hunters, PvP
wad marks. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no,
wait, why did you
WoD-
guys get to keep the
FBM,
instant
though.
aim shot in PvE? I could have that in PvP. Holy fuck, I would have also rather played that. Oh,
WoD survival I really liked. I think that was WoD on like Twin Ogres and stuff.
Yeah.
You had like Serpent Sting and multi-shot spread
Oh,
Serpent
yeah.
Sting and stuff like that.
That was good, but
really
I
fun.
think mop survival.
yeah,
was
yeah.
even
I prefer the
Yeah.
mod. I would
a
definitely prefer the
lot
mod
better
version because
than
you
mop
just
survival.
you definitely clap cheeks harder than like you're still like your dots. You're just more dots in WoD, right? But like I also still liked having kill shot too. Like it
Yeah.
felt like you finish people off instead of kind of just like tickling them pretty good, you know. Like if I wanted to
Those
dot people
tickling
up, I
aims.
wanted to be a affliction warlock. Like when I play hunter, I want to see someone just die.
Yeah, the Marksman Hunter instant aim was pretty fun, and what was it, Hellfire, right?
Yeah, it was. It
Yeah.
was
C,
it is Hellfire.
the
Yeah.
instant swaps and stuff
That-
like that.
That whole instance for almost every spec had that philosophy of let's make you all feel broken. It'll be fun, but because you're all broken, it'll be relative. And they almost pulled it off, except they made Arcade Mage so fucking broken that
Yeah,
didn't
well, it
really
was just
matter,
with that
but-
one trinket, right? What was it? Prophecy of Doom.
It was a few things, yeah. It was Prophecy of Doom
and
and,
then the ring.
being so front loaded
Lego
and the ring.
Yeah.
And fucking prismatic crystal.
What was it, like a 10-second? Oh, Azor, freaking, what was your tyrant? Your tyrant video where y'all cheesed it with the ring.
Ah, yeah. Yeah, that
I
was
remember
quite
watching
something.
that.
I was in a guild
Back
that
in the
loved
days
to,
before Hellstrong's bank account reigned supreme.
Yeah. Yeah, I was in a speed killing guild at the time. It was also a normal guild, but on farm we like to do these speed kills, and there was this trinket at the time where you didn't do any damage for like 10 to 15 seconds, but then you release all that damage and then some in one go after 10 to 15 seconds. So what you would do is, before the boss, you would pull a bunch of trash together, do 10 billion damage, kill it all in one go within the trinkets time. Then you would pull the boss, and all the trinkets would explode and almost one-shot the boss.
Yeah.
Pretty
was
fun.
an,
So you
an
stack
excellent
rogues for that
video.
because they had
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And then Kime Shot and Barrage back when Barrage wasn't shit. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
Barrage
quite
used to
something.
clap people. Holy fuck.
Yeah. And then they nerfed the crap out of it, and I don't know. I'm
Oh,
sort of
Lynx
glad they
Rush.
nerfed Barrage, but we used to
Yeah,
have the
I
bad name
normally
of Hunters pulling everything, and so
I
yeah.
normally hate playing BM Hunter, but I actually didn't hate it in WoD like the way it did damage, because I really liked like the active dire beast, and I liked the what is it, the focus fire. It was actually kind of cool that like you had more stuff to manage. I feel like
Yeah.
now the stuff that I'm managing, if I play BM, it's just like my fucking cooldowns.
I mean,
that are, it's
we
like my
complain about BM having a lot of cooldowns now and stuff, but early mob BM had Lynx Rush, it had Stampede, it had Bastille Wrath,
oh yeah, I
might have had
remember
another
quitting.
one, and then it had Readiness, so you could go do it all
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, I didn't like that BM had readiness, because I remember in like Wrath of the Lich King, they gave BM readiness, and they're like, wow, this is retarded, we're going to take this out. So then when they put that back in, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I already know how this is going to go. Like, this is going to be the stupidest shit ever. And then it's just going to complain, and then Hunters will like not be fun to play after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I think that about wraps it up.
Yeah, I need to go be a dad.
Yeah, so for everyone wondering, we are planning on uploading this to YouTube and to iTunes. We have not created a YouTube channel for this podcast yet. We do plan on making its own separate YouTube. It will be posted on, I think all of us have
Pornhub.
YouTubes. Prox, do you have YouTube?
Yeah, kind of. Or maybe,
You will now.
Maybe
It's
on
not really
Prox's.
used for
It
much.
should be posted on all of our respective channels, and then I will plan on uploading it to iTunes. For schedule, guys, this is a bi-weekly, so we plan on doing it 2 weeks from now. We might do it in 3 weeks, just because one, I cannot be here in 2 weeks, and also like the first week of Mythic and stuff like that. So play it by ear for this first time, but typically it will be bi-weekly. Same time every Friday or Saturday morning for all you Aussies. But yeah, and I think that wraps it up. Any,
Probably fair
We're
to
only
say.
planning on sorry.
I was just saying, probably fair to say the agenda for the next show will almost entirely center around how things are going in Raid. I think that's a fair assumption.
pretty much, yeah. It'll just be.
And Dilly will be like, "Oh yeah, I had a great time sitting on the bench watching my teammates play Night Hunter."
Me?
No, Dilly doesn't raid. What do you
Oh.
mean?
Oh yeah, okay. I was like, what? I thought I
No,
thought I
well,
read it.
because you'll be in season 3, right? So you'll be like, yeah.
Damn.
Well, when I PvP'd last season, I think I had more tournament wins on my DK than I did on my Hunter. Felt really
Yeah.
good. I've never played a DK either. I played Hunter for 14 years, so I mean, it feels really good that my expertise is rewarded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Any last remarks, Azor, Dilly, Prox?
Nothing special.
Fox
Was a pretty
leather.
good first episode. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
So,
Well, guys, please give us feedback in True Shot Lodge. Just ping us, yell at us, whatever. We should maybe make a feedback channel. I think there is a feedback channel. We could probably just put in that same feedback channel. Anything you'd like to
is
see, any guest hosts, any whatever you want to get from us as a podcast. And yeah, I think that wraps it up. So thanks for watching, guys.